Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Hello and welcome to round 5 of the VSCA Sports Car Championship from the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. All 2 hours and 40 minutes of this round 5 of the championship will be broadcast by us at Apex Racing TV with myself, Sam Fitzpatrick, and Owen Carroll in the commentary box, and of course Samuli Kumo bringing you this stream on our YouTube channel. This should be a real fun one, Owen. I think this is, of course, a traditional kind of sports car circuit in North America, but even so, it's only about a minute and 15 lap for the fastest of the cars around this track. And with the shortness of the circuit and with the packed field we have and the 3 classes as well, this could be a very intense couple of hours of racing.
Yeah, for sure. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, it's this circuit is known for its quickness and the speed of it as well, with the LMDHs obviously being the fastest class and that being a ridiculously fast lap time at this track as well. And that intertwining with the LMP2s and GT3s, I think it's going to cause quite a mess, maybe, going to the first few sectors with the amount of speed differences that these cars have against each other and the difficultiness of turn 5 as well, going uphill to the right as well for the LMP2s and LMDHs. You know, locking up is going to be a big issue. Not so much for the GT3s, obviously, with the ABS, but yeah, it's going to be a bit interesting one today.
There's really not many trickier corners in all of online racing. In fact, in terms of real life racing as well as Moss corners, as you identify. I mean, can you identify exactly what it is that makes that corner quite so tricky to perfect?
Yeah, for sure. LMDH still in LMP2s for sure, but the no ABS is going to have a trouble locking up, especially on the front right of their tyres as well on the brakes. Yeah, going uphill to the right-hander is going to be very tricky to get it slowed down efficiently and not locking up any tyres to cause any flat spots for them today. But obviously the GT3's got nothing to worry about with the ABS. They can launch up that corner. No real issues for them at all. But yeah, for LMDHs and LMP2s, yeah, it's going to be an issue to try and keep them tyres intact.
Absolutely, we are currently in qualifying. The GTD cars have already set their fastest time, so we're now in the LMP2 category, with the drivers trying to put in as fast a time as possible. The race should be launching in about 25 minutes time, but of course we've got these LMP2s and then the GTPs, as they are often known in real life, or the LMDHs, or the hypercars, many different names, but the BMW M-V8 hybrid will be closing out the field. Currently watching Matt Olmstead, who gets a big slide there, and tricky round that corner there, but it's going to be tricky for these drivers, especially I think tonight, because of the track temperature and not a whole lot of grip out here for the drivers. And, you know, round these very long radius corners, that's the last thing that the drivers really wanted.
Yeah, for sure. This track temp is very, very high up into like the high 40s as well. So yeah, keeping the tires on the car and cool as well is going to be very much of an issue with as I mentioned before, the high speed nature of this track. It's really going to be putting on the outside of all the tires as well. And yeah, it's going to be stretching them to its absolute limit. So the key here for this long endurance race today at Mosport would be to keep the tires intact and not over push it too much for the end of the race.
Yeah, as we see those times coming in, I was saying a 1:15 would be a good lap time around here, but of course that was in the GTDs, and we're already down to a 1:07 for the LMP2s. Not a whole lot of difference, to be fair, between the LMDHs and the LMP2s. I mean, it seems to vary a lot, I would say, in the races that I've seen, where maybe if we go to somewhere like Daytona, the LMDHs can absolutely sprint away. But I mean, I've seen races at the Hungaroring, for example, and you've got LMP2 cars like overtaking, or at least being able to match LMDHs around the middle part of the circuit. Where would you say Mosport falls in that area? How much of a difference do you expect there to be between the prototype classes tonight?
Yeah, so LMP2s obviously have a pretty good amount of speed in the high-speed corners as well, but obviously LMDHs are an absolute weapon in these high-speed tracks as well. So I can imagine the big differences will be, especially in the last sector, the LMDHs will be very easy to try and navigate that, and just a quick flick of the steering wheel will turn it in instantly. LMP2 a little bit more technical for them guys today. Turn 1, I'd say, is a lot easier, as we see Tommaso there go through turn 1. It's going to be a lot easier in LMP2 than it is in LMDH. LMP2 is fairly flat out, and this left-hander coming through there is pretty treacherous as well. But as we come through Moss Corner at turn 5, it's going to be very, very difficult for both of them to try and find their time. LMP2 will have a bit of a later braking zone because their brakes are a lot better than LMDH and a lot less likely to lock up. So that's going to be a little bit where the LMP2 comes into its own. But yeah, the biggest difference, I believe, will be this final sector.
Yeah, I think that's a very good shout. That's yeah, the final sector will be really where they can make some time up and maybe even some overtakes as well. It's a tricky part of the circuit to overtake around there, and I think the traffic could be a very prominent part. Getting held up there could easily lose you a couple of seconds. We've got Tommaso Basile out there for Wasset Racing, and he is trying to improve at the moment, albeit you can see that this is not the fastest lap in the world, albeit now he seems to be absolutely launching it, coming out of the final corner, and the car 50 going to try to put himself as far up the order as possible. Currently P2 in qualifying, and only a couple of tenths off the fastest time, so not a whole lot of improvement needed. And yeah, the first half of this lap, or first couple of corners of this lap, are looking pretty good.
Yeah, indeed. Of course, with the tiny nature of this lap time as well, only a 1:07.5 for the fastest time so far. With this really short track time, it's going to be yeah, very close in qualifying. As we can see already, the times are really, really close together, and it's going to be like that for, I think, the whole of the grid as well, not even just in LMP2, but for GTD and DH as well. So yeah, it's not much to find in this short lap time. Only a few attempts, if that, and only a few corners to find it as well. So it's going to be very tricky to find that time, but if they can do it and get the tyres in the right shape and get that momentum going, then yeah, a good lap time can be on the cards especially.
We should give a big thanks to really the sponsor who's making this broadcast possible today, Virtual. That is Virtual, spelled VR7UAL. And if you check them out, I think there might well be a link available. You can see the services that they provide, because they have been working very hard to provide a learning platform for driving schools that offers beginner drivers an elevated user experience, leveraging the power of technology. So do check out their website. That is VR7UAL.ca, virtual.ca. And yeah, you can check out all the services that they provide. We'll be talking about them a little bit later on. But whether you're looking to yeah, get tuition from a driving school, or whether you are looking more at esports when it comes to online racing or simulator rental, Virtual are definitely someone who you should check out. So huge thanks to them for making this broadcast possible. I think the drivers are delighted, and we are delighted as well at Apex Racing TV to be able to provide this coverage. Tommaso, apologies, Andy Banfield crossing the line. He is in 13th position at the moment, the only driver out on circuit, and I think soon we'll get our eyes on some LMDH drivers once they are out on the track. But at the moment, Training Paints Racing Team Black at the top of the standings, and of course, whilst this is the first round of the championship that we are broadcasting for this season, Owen, it's not the first round of the championship, full stop. I mean, the drivers have already had 4 races where they've been racing one another, whether that be the 12-hour event that they had at Sebring or some of the sprint races that they've had as well. And so a little bit of history already in the series, and yeah, some kind of championships that are already midway through the season.
Yeah, indeed, of course. Training Paints Racing Team Delara taking the top spot on LMB2 standings overall, having a dominant win in Laguna Seca last race and also winning the 12 hours of Sebring back in March as well. So yeah, brand new team and entry to the season. So it's the first time for them in this championship. So yeah, great start to them in this early stages in the championship as well. And yeah, Albrecht Motorsports Delara as well, right behind. Just following up in P2, their previous result being Daytona in P4, Sebring P4 as well, Long Beach P7 and Laguna Seca P4 as well. So some fairly, decent results there to pick up some good points. So maybe we can see them again pick up an array of good points as well here today. But yeah, the championship is still very, very close. Again, lots of points on offer here today. So yeah, I'm excited to see what these guys can do in terms of race management.
Yeah, and one of the things that surprised me, that is that how no team has really been able to dominate in the classes. Besides, I will say Kinetic Racing have been very good in the GTD class, but besides that, pretty much everyone has. We've got some kind of top 3 in the championships who haven't even scored podiums so far this season, who have just been able to knock in those consistent results and being able to get their way up through the standings in that way. So yeah, whilst the race wins do matter, obviously, in this championship, and that's what everyone out here will be aiming for tonight, it's not absolutely everything for the Jazz, and it is mainly that consistency. For the Sprint Cup races, at least, there's about 30 points. It's 350 points compared to 320 points for second to first in the championship. So yeah, you can see that, like, not a whole lot of difference, only about 10% more points you earn for first place compared to second place, and so that consistency and turning up for every round and yeah, getting those top 5 positions going to be ever so important for the drivers. The spectators having their eardrums slightly repaired at the moment as the track is nice and quiet. I don't know if you've ever been to, or yeah, I'm sure you have done, Owen, in the past, when you go to real life race circuits and all of a sudden that you have these lulls where there's nothing going out on circuit, and it is incredible that you can actually hear stuff. Like, it is an incredible sensation when you get so used to 12 hours of engine noise and then all of a sudden everything gets turned off.
Yeah, for sure. I visit my local racetrack, Brands Hatch, many times before, and yeah, when that moment of silence is quite nice to take all in the atmosphere of the track itself and everyone watching it as well is really nice to hear as well. But yeah, it's always great to hear some engine noises and some rumblings coming from the garages here as well.
Yeah, for sure. And soon we'll get the BMWs out there as well, which are pretty loud themselves, but probably not quite as loud as the Porsches, which are slightly dulled, I must say, on iRacing. iRacing tries to match the engine noise, I believe, at least a little bit, so that one car isn't super loud compared to others. It does certainly help us out when it comes to these broadcasts, so we don't have to balance out all the different cars, but still, that Porsche absolutely screaming around this Mosport circuit with the BMWs a little bit quieter with their hybrid engines. We'll be preparing for that one, and yeah, soon we'll be getting that underway. I mean, have you kind of driven the LMDHs much around this circuit, Owen, in the past? Because this circuit, I think it has been visited by IMSA fairly recently, but with so many Grand Prix circuits nowadays on iRacing, those types of tracks tend to get the slight preference compared to these slightly more old school sports car circuits, and so it's not necessarily a combo that we see a whole lot.
No, for sure. It's definitely not a combo that's very Well, yeah, very popular with the most of the iRacing calendars as well, but it is definitely a fun one. When I was driving it here not too long ago, actually, probably about a few weeks ago, yeah, it was super fun, super quick as well. And that LMDH, it loves the high-speed cornering, and this obviously has a bunch of that, apart from Boss Corner, obviously. But yeah, it's super fun, super fast, and I think the guys doing LMDH today are going to have a really lovely time. And speaking of which, here we see some come out on track as well. But yeah, it's super quick, super fun. And it's a very great combo, but not so much for multi-class. I think it's very difficult to try and manage the traffic around here as well, because with such a small lap time and such of it being at high speed, if you get an MDH coming behind the GG3 and you lose roughly about like 3 or so seconds, that 3 seconds is going to cost you so much on a lap time that's only roughly around 1 minute 5.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and well, traffic is going to be tricky, and I think that might well be partially to say how much traffic we see by the full course yellows that we have in this series. Now, these full course yellows are random, and I must say I'm a big fan of that. A lot of series try to make it so that if you have like a big crash, then you have a full course yellow. But the issue with that is that some rounds, we've all been there, some rounds you have a few people who are just crashing all the time, and it's every 5 minutes, oh, it's another safety car or whatever. This series works much better in terms of it's just completely random, and we'll get, well, any number. We might get none, I believe, but we might get up to about 3 in today's race, and the judges just have absolutely no idea when they are going to come around. How much, when it comes to the strategy, can the guys sort of adapt to that? I mean, have you almost got to just run your own race and sort of ignore that stuff, or have you got to be very proactive and, you know, be prepared for a caution coming out at any time?
I mean, you've always going to have that in the back of your mind, right? You can't just go into a race with a possibility of a safety car and kind of not do anything about it. You have to have almost a plan B or a plan C of if a safety car was to occur, or more than one safety car to occur, what you would do in that certain time. And yeah, the best part is you just come in for a fresh set of tyres, a fresh load of fuel, because obviously you can change the tyres and fuel at the same time now in iRacing as well, which is very nice for strategy and all that kind of stuff now as well. But yeah, it's always a thing you have to have in the back of your mind. You can't just go out there and think, oh, okay, it's fine. We just go out there with no safety car in mind. You have to have that second plan in there and strategize it to the best of your ability.
Anywhere I've been going wrong all these years, always just hoping that it will fall into my lap. Never does. And yeah, you're absolutely right that the judge should, probably be proactive when it comes to that stuff. As see the first few turns are about to be put in. Cameron Barker currently at the top. Apologies, by the way, for the slight overlay issues. Hopefully we'll be able to resolve them in a little while. But we'll try to bring you the standings via the power of our voice. And I think there is a link as well in the description below to the live timing, so you can click on that, and that will show you the standings as it is at the moment. But TMSRacing.com Pro currently at the top, and it's JO Motorsport second place, but I think there's going to be plenty more improvements coming up soon on.
Yeah, indeed. Of course, it's very early stages for this LMDH category as well, with the fast time being a 104.25. Yeah, I believe there's more in the tank as well, as we see Seamus Power setting in a 103.65. So just as I see it, someone goes 6 tenths quicker overall. So yeah, these times going to be ramping in with the tyres, getting into a better condition as the laps go forward, and the fuel dropping out as well if these guys put a bit more fuel in the car for the qualifying as well. And also the qualifying mode in this car can really make such a huge difference to your lap time. You know, you're not using as much fuel, but using all the electric power that it can, and bringing you such a quick straight line speed and a really great entry speed as well. So all that combination coming together with the lap time dropping off, and also the track coming into a better condition as well, we're going to see some way quicker lap times, I'm sure, very soon.
And when you mention that qualifying mode, is it actually possible to use the entire battery on such a short lap like this? Or are you on the battery for like the entire time pretty much?
Yeah, so you'll be on the battery for pretty much the whole entire lap in the qualifying mode. Not really anywhere down the straights is it trying to save a bit more anyway. But it does of course save on the brakes itself, so it regens approximately to about 10%, 20% more when you're on the brakes. But yeah, on quality mode it uses it all the way down the straights and all the way through the corners as well. So yeah, these guys will have roughly around 2 to 3 laps of quality mode to use, and then obviously setting it back into no deploy, lifting off again, taking a bit slowly, or going back to the pits, and then coming out again, using that qualifying mode, and getting at least 1 or 2 laps in.
Interesting that so far we are yet to see a time for Maya Sim Speed Performance as Alex Baroya for Race for Cat Motorsport goes to third position. But Maya Sim Speed currently at the top of the standings after 4 rounds of the championship. Of course, I think we've got a few different championships as well. You've got because this is one of the kind of endurance events, and then you've got the sprint events as well. So does make a difference in terms of the length of races, but. And like each of the endurance events and the sprint cup have different championships, but we're sort of looking at the overall championship, which is all those 11 events combined. This round 5 of the championship, and yeah, Maya Simsby currently at the top of the standings, but yeah, yet to put in a lap time. Carl Burney is out there at the moment, but I don't think it's set an eligible lap time yet, so they're kind of number 3 with a bit of improvement to go.
Yeah, indeed. Again, as I said before, this lap time is going to come in quick and fast, and I think it's going to get way quicker as the time progresses as well. As we see there, another pole position. Dawson Brock comes in with only, I think that's a 100th difference as well. 103.64 for the fastest time now, or 6:37 to be absolutely precise as well there. For Dawson Brock, the number 7 car of Gritty Motorsports. So yeah, very good lap time from Dawson there, and I'm sure we're going to see some quicker lap times coming in, or at least very similar to, as I mentioned earlier before, with the very, very short nature of the lap time, just over a minute here. It's going to be very, very tight in this qualifying session. And yeah, I'm sure we're going to see some more lap times coming in very soon.
One of the best things about this series is the fact that we've got such a small window when it comes to the iRatings, because there's a maximum iRating of 4,000. At least when the drivers sign up, they can go over 4,000 during the season. But at the start of the season, at least for new drivers, they have to be below 4,000 iRating. And I'm not seeing anyone out there at the moment with more than 4,000 iRating. And so it's not really surprising that we've got less than 100th of a second separating the top 2 cars, because yeah, everyone is so evenly matched. Albeit I will say Dawson Brock only 2.6k iRatings. That is really punching above his weight. Seamus Power at 3.9. So yeah, really good effort there from Dawson. You can still see a little bit of improvement to come yet, and wants to find that if he possibly can. We've still got another 7 minutes of this qualifying session remaining, as Cameron Barker just crossed the line. He was on a slow lap that time round, so yeah, watch out for the P3 man as well for Champion Motorsports. He might well be putting some pressure on that pole position as well.
Yeah, as you mentioned earlier with the iRating as well, it's a great thing for these guys obviously to have such a close amount of iRating together and really test their skills against each other as well. There's no like huge iRate differences and no big skill gap differences as well. It's all just about how you and the car and your setup as well can do against the rest of the best as well. So yeah, great to see Dawson Rock on pole with quite a small iRate of only 2.6k as well compared to the rest of them here today. And yeah, I'm sure, as you said, Cameron Barker can sneak in a good lap time there as well. As we see, actually, Dawson Brock set a 103.587, so Dawson has no signs of slowing down whatsoever. As I said before, the lap times are only going to get quicker, and it has done indeed. Grizzly Motorsports 7 car of Dawson Brock there going 600ths quicker now over Seamus Power there as well. So great lap by Dawson Brock, and it seems like he has no intention of slowing down.
Yeah, he's yeah, just getting faster and faster as it stands. Once again, of course, during qualifying, it's probably worth opening the live time, because unfortunately, yeah, our overlay having a couple of issues at the moment. But yeah, if you click on that link, yeah, it's partially working at the moment. But if you click on the link in the in-race chat, or apologies, not in the in-race chat, in the YouTube chat, then that will open up the opportunity for you to be able to open the live timing. There's also a link to it in the description as well, and that's very useful to have during the race as well when it comes to these endurance events, because that will show you the amount of times that the drivers have come into the pits, the last lap that they came into the pits, their pit stop time, and the gaps between each of the drivers, their last lap time, their best lap time. So all very useful stuff. That's Dawson Brock. That last time round, about 5 seconds off, so just cooling it down a little bit. And this one, I think, is pushing again, albeit a little bit wide there, and so maybe it'll be the next one that he really sets his sights on.
Yeah, indeed. I can imagine that Dawson here at the minute is trying to regain most of that battery back into the qualifying mode, actually in the no deployment mode, getting ready for the next lap. So it seems like Dawson has a lot of fuel in the car ready to do a bunch of runs here today. So he's on his, well, in the middle of his 7th lap by now as well. So his car is only going to get quicker and quicker as well. So as I mentioned earlier, a lot of these guys fueling quite heavily to do a bunch of runs on these tyre sets as well, which is a good idea to do as well. You know, building up that momentum of the fuel and just getting more experience with the car and actually going down as well, which is, yeah, quite a good idea rather than just going for 2 flies and just hoping that your lap time going to reach sin. This way, Dawson has a lot of chances to get a lot of laps in, which is only going to get quicker and quicker.
Grizzly Motorsport's currently in P4 in the championship, a new team to the season, albeit Joshua Wolf and Trevor Gavroski moved from Talk Freak last season to Grizzly Motorsports for this season. And, well, they are certainly punching above their weight at the moment. They haven't actually scored a podium so far this season. They've had a 4th, a 10th, a 7th, and a 4th. This might well be enough to certainly put them on track for not only their first podium in the series, but also a first win. And of course, our championship leaders, Maya Sim Speed Performance, struggling at the moment, down in 7th position. And these guys as well, to be fair, have only won 1 race so far this season. It's been their consistency, a first place at Daytona and then an 8th, a 2nd and a 5th. And they've got a little bit of a cushion at the moment, but yeah, very surprising to see them quite so detached from the rest of the field. Over a 2nd off the pace around a circuit like this is highly surprising. Yeah,
I can imagine that these guys, with being the leader of the championship, they have some know-how of what to do in these qualifying sessions as well. And I think it's what Carl's doing here for the MySim Speed Performance guys, probably just doing a little bit of sandbagging, you know, just trying to keep the car in a decent position for the final run of qualifying here. There's still only around about 3 minutes to go, so that's roughly about 2 to 3 laps worth of qualifying as well to go for these guys here. So I can imagine that Carl is going to be just a little bit patient to get that lap in and surprise everyone at the very end.
I would absolutely love it if he went to pole position right now. This would be, yeah, quite a change from him. But if you could just get maybe ahead of Santos as well, that would be absolutely good. And of course, not the easiest circuit to overtake, especially compared to Daytona that they visited earlier on in the championship. So yeah, will be tricky for that one. For a circuit like this, Owen, I mean, are we expecting these cars to be able to go a little bit further on fuel than they sometimes can? I mean, from my experience, at least in the LMDHs, you're talking 40 to 45 minutes for the LMP2s, maybe 40 minutes, maybe just a little bit short on that. Do you expect this to be a high fuel consumption circuit where they're having to pit a bit early, or do you think they might be able to go a bit further this week?
So I can imagine with the amount of time that these guys are on throttle around this track as well, it's going to be a fairly high consumption rate of fuel for this car. But being a short lap time, it might not be as high as we're expecting, probably around about 2 litres a lap, I'd roughly say as well. So yeah, fuel saving is going to be quite important here, going to the last sector especially, not being on throttle for too long and just coasting behind the person in front of you. Or if you're out in front, just having a little bit of coasting, taking the entries a bit more easier, managing your tyres for the stint as well is going to be very important as well. So I can imagine we're going to see these guys go quite a distance for this race today. But yeah, it's going to be quite difficult to manage that fuel, especially at a track like this where being on throttle does matter a whole bunch.
So Bernie putting in, well, you will get another lap in after this, but whether or not you'll have the battery to be able to put in enough fast lap is another matter. Is he able to get himself up there? No, not for now. And that was a pushing lap, and you can see he's not pushing on this lap. That's not the racing line that you would take. So I think it might just be Alvaro Martinez del Olmo, who is the last guy who's going to set a lap, and you can see he is absolutely pushing already some grass, getting onto the circuit, and we're only in qualifying as it stands. And Alvaro currently running in 4th position. You can see only 4 tenths off pole. Wouldn't take a big improvement here for him to get on the front row.
Yeah, this does look like a very solid lap time from Alvaro here so far, using all the track limits that he can as possible and really pushing the car to its limits. So this looks pretty good. Maybe it can be within the temps of the top 3 times. Again, the top 3 times only separated by 3 temps, and of course, Seamus Power and Dawson Brock being separated by 0.06 of a second. So let's see what Alvaro can do around the last sector here. Very, very tight. Won't be on the right-hand side. They're flicking it back over to the left and hooking it to the left-hand side again for the short right-hander for the final corner here. Back on throttle using all the exit curb you can. Almost into the gravel there. crosses the line, and it is not an improvement, it seems. Only a 104.65 compared to his 104.01. So Alvaro does have one more lap here to get a lap done, so let's see if this one could be the one for him. Interesting, all the way to the right-hand side, using as much track limits as he can. Finally, a nice early apex, letting the car open up, run wide to the left-hand side here, using all the curb as possible. And back over to the right-hand side, swing it to the left, keeping in the middle of the track, not to hit the curb on the left-hand side, and position it all the way to the left. Sharp braking up to the right-hand side, trying to lock the inside front right. Then back onto the right-hand side. Oh, misses the apex, had to put a lot of steering lock in there for him. That's not going to be very good for the exit here, down into the final sector here as well. Want to keep it close to the right-hand side here for the shortest run possible down on this straight. Keeps it in the middle of the track here to set up on the left-hander as well. Let's come to the last sector now. Wants to have a nice early apex on the left-hand side. Quick dab of the brakes to flick it in now. Then gets right up to the close to the right-hand side curve to flick it in back to the left. Finds the curb, finds a late apex there as well, and pits instead. So not a lap time for him that he wants to be represented on the board, and it stays 4th for Alvaro Martinez del Olmo.
Yeah, back into the pits he goes for the number 51, and it will be second row of the grid for his start. Trying to see World of Sim Racing in the standings at the moment, but they are pretty far down, or maybe just their apologies. I might be looking at the wrong. I was looking at the wrong championship. As per, they're third place. They're doing very well, World of Sim Racing. So third place going into this round, yeah, the 51. I mean, long shot of taking the championship lead, but honestly, it's possible. If it ends like this, it will be very close between Champion Motorsports, Maya SimSpeed, and World of Sim Racing at the top of the standings. We're still half the season remaining as we just wait for the session to take over. Everyone is back out on circuit, or no one is on circuit, apologies. And so we will soon get this underway, and our grid then for this round 5 of the championship, and it's going to be Grizzly Motorsports at the top of the standings, ahead of JO Motorsports. Then it's Champion Motorsports in 3rd position, World of Sim Racing in 4th, Race for Cat Motorsports in 5th, and then it's MV Skin Lab DS Racing in 6th. Maya SimSpeed Performance, surprising that they are as low down as 7th, and it's Money House Racing Red starting in 8th. Then it is Trading Paints Racing Team Black, championship leaders in the LMP2 class. They are looking very good in the championship, and they are backing that up. Selena Ward on pole position tonight. Then it is Wasset Racing in 2nd place, Digital Spirit DS Racing in 3rd, Twisty Bits Racing in 4th, and it's Fisher Motorsports, Olbrich Motorsports, Agi Motorsports, GSE Esports Racing, Mad Sim Racing, Sapphire Simsport Delta, Vision 1 Motorsports, Vision 1 Motorsports again in 19th and 20th. That's the 13 car ahead of the 11. Then it is VRG Sports in 21st. Interesting that Grizzly Motorsports 8, I believe, might be gridding up behind those drivers. So a little bit of a tricky one there for David to be able to pull off that one. So watch out for one of the BMWs to be storming through the LMP2s off the line for this race. In the GTDs, we've got Nicholas Johnston for Trading Paints Racing Team, getting 2 out of the 3 pole positions tonight. Grizzly Motorsports in 2nd position. Then Screeching Moose Motorsports, Kinetic Racing, VSCA, Champion Motorsports Endurance, Money House Racing Black, Fisher Motorsports, Dangler Performance, and then it says Fisher Motorsports Eagle, Eastside Motorsports, Mad Sim Racing, Firestorm Motorsports, Olympus Esports, Lambada, World of Sim Racing Team. Then it says Talk Freak Racing, HAC Racing, Full Send, Off the S's, Trading Paints Racing Team, Blue, HAC Racing, and Nerd Herd Racing in 43rd. I'm a bit concerned that Real Pixel Motorsports with Ronald Gross, who is meant to be in the car, they may not take the start because they have not started this formation lap, but even without them, we've got a very full field ON of 43 cars.
Yeah, indeed. Again, very large field, as you just mentioned there as well. So, yeah, GTT being the largest field as well, and the HTMB being the smallest group as well. So it's going to be very tricky for the MDHs to manage the GT3 traffic And the GT3s similar to MVH traffic as well. Obviously, the GT3s have their own race to deal with, but so do MVHs. So a lot of sends, especially into Mosport, I think will happen as well, and especially into the last sector where that time difference will really be shown, and that speed difference as well between the two cars will be shown as well. Quick update on Dawid there as well, moving up behind the number 45 MVH car, so he has avoided all the LMP2 traffic and gone straight up to right behind the LMVH traffic as well. So there is that issue solved there. But yeah, Dawson Brock, again, very successful pole position there for the virtual pole position award. Of course, all these guys on pole positions they feature in the classes will receive a prize at the end of the season for the most pole positions. So congratulations to the pole sitters for this round in the championship today. As we get underway, Dawson Brock being on the right-hand side of the grid, which is very handy because the first corner is indeed a right-hander, so he will have the benefit of that as well. As well as Cameron Barker, you can get away with having a really great start in P3 here compared to P2, so I can imagine that Cameron will be setting his sights on the rear end of Dawson Brock there to try and slip into P2 as early as possible. But he needs to be right on the back of Dawson Brock there and able to benefit from that launch at the very beginning. But yeah, we'll see what happens here at the very beginning of this round 5 of the championship.
Yeah, Grizzly Motorsport should have a very good launch, but yeah, we all about that battle for P2 heading into turn 1. Everyone knows the risk here at Mosport, and round 5 of the championship is underway, and it is a very good start for JO Motorsports. They'll comfortably remain in second place. Champion Motorsports not with the launch that they wanted. Meyer SimSpeed, the championship leaders, already gaining a place. They are up into 6th, but on the most part, the MDH is spreading out a lot. The LMP2s look a lot closer as they now launch, and it's Selena Ward for Trading Paints Racing Team Black leading them away. And so far, everyone is still in the same order. They're getting into single file, just a little bit of side-by-side between GSE and Agi Motorsports, a little bit in the midfield. But through turn 2, they seem to have sorted themselves out. Trading Paints also leading the GTD category as well. But Screeching Moose Motorsports have been able to get that strong launch that we were anticipating for the other classes in 3rd place. They have moved up into 2nd ahead of Grizzly Motorsports 9. Also good start for Fisher Motorsports and, well, both Fisher Motorsports, in fact, both the Porsche and the Eagle car. And, well, not just settling for 2nd place already, Screeching Moose looking feisty for the lead as well.
Yeah, indeed. Very good start for all the cars here today. There doesn't seem to be too many instances here as we see going into Moss Corner, everyone taking it nice and single file. No need to risk too much there again. 2 hours and 40-minute race here today as we see some side-by-side going into Moss Corner as well. Turn 6, now we're getting a chance to go around the outside of Neil Millicent for the Silk Creek Racing VSCA car as well. As we see Matt Olmsted for HJC Racing there going side-by-side with another lap in there as well. But yeah, all nice and orderly through this first lap already, and it's pretty impressive to see. As we see MVHs go side by side, that's Gritty Motorsports being dropped out there to P2 by Seamus Power in JO Motorsports. So very successful move there into Moss Corner on the inside. Very easy to lock the brakes there, as I mentioned earlier, but doesn't do that for Seamus Power there and gets a really nice launch. 0.6 of a second now separates JO Motorsports from Gritty Motorsports.
Yeah, that could be a big move. We're not expecting a whole lot of moves. This is a very tricky to overtake circuit. I'm sure we got that long and Jersey straight, but at the end of it, you got these very fast sweeping corners with no braking zone, and so to overtake in these MDHs on any circuit is tricky to do, and that could be a big move in this race. JO Motorsports leading the way, and you can only imagine that Dawson Brock perhaps a little bit cautious on full fuel, on cold tyres, and just with so many cars around him as well. It happens to the best of us. You get tight in the cockpit, and maybe that is what has happened to him, and it's looking like he could even fall further down. Our pole sitter, our virtual pole sitter, not looking strong at the moment, and it's going to be the same corner again that he might be under pressure. Champion Motorsports looking to the inside but not able to replicate that move, as Money House Racing Red have just dropped behind Grizzly Motorsports 8. That's a change for 8th position.
Yeah, and well, already right on the back of the GTD class here as well, as we see JO Motorsports in the 1.4 second lead now. So 0.6 in 1 lap here for Seamus Power. So a really phenomenal start for him as he cuts his way through the GTD traffic as quick as he possibly can. Again, this last is going to be crucial. Going around the outside of the GT3s here is a must with the amount of speed differences in cars. As we see this in the back there for Race 4 Cat Motorsport and the GT3 car, I believe that's place number 21, a 974 car as well. That is Nerd Herd Racing for Aaron Beaver. So yeah, their cars look pretty much out of it completely. Very big damage there for both of them. That's yeah, the trickiness of the last sector here at Mosport as well. The GTD traffic is something you have to be cautious of and something you have to manage. And if you get it wrong, that's the consequence.
Well, we knew that there were going to be issues around that part of the circuit throughout tonight, and already, just on the first pass, we've already seen it. And this is one of the most tricky parts of the race. I mean, this could well be replicated later on when we have full cross yellows. We're going to basically see this situation repeat itself. And Cameron Barker, you can see how the car ahead is almost having to come to a stop because of the traffic. Barker not able to gain any track position. But right now, it is just about survival for these guys, for the GTDs and the prototypes alike, as we head to the end of the entrance straight once again. Let's see if there's going to be any more collisions. But with no faster pairs in this race, you're absolutely right about what you said. They could be game over for those two teams already. And look at the move now for second place. He sent it and just caught him napping. But is he able to get ahead? Because now it's going to be the other line which is going to work well. And they remain server, so be sure he's going to get boxed in here. Behind the GC, he tries to move across to the right. There's contact between the two of them. And somehow Grizzly Mosport is still in second place.
Yeah, Dawson Brock, I mean, yeah, fantastic moves for both of them there, from both teams, the CMS Racing Pro and Dawson Brock there for the Grizzly Motorsport 7 car. Fantastic move there from Cameron to send it up the inside at the crucial moment the GG3's come to a nice flow at the end of the last sector there. But then Cameron getting caught out napping by the right-hander as well with the GG3 on his inside as well. And yeah, Dawson took advantage of that, squeezed him to the left-hand side, made it 3 wide, and forced Cameron to back out of it. And it's benefited him because he's 2 GT3s ahead as Cameron now gets caught up here at Moss Corner with a BMW right in front of him.
What did you think about Cameron's move on the pit straight there? Because you could see that one of them was going to get boxed in eventually. It looked like he got boxed in, and was getting boxed in as well. Was the World of Sim Racing team there? But yeah, moving across like that on the pit straight, was that all good?
I think that's fine. It's nice and aggressive for the first run through traffic. It's the thing you want to do. You want to box in your opponent as much as you can and really take advantage of that. As we see a battle for the lead in between Houston Johnson, Train Pace Racing team, and also Screeching Moose Motorsports. As we go 3 wide on the DHs as well. Side by side, still down to turn 1. Who is the last late breakers? It seems to be Trading Paints Racing Team Red, who have the better hand at turn 1, but Screeching Moose Motorsports gets a nice switch back there going into turn 2 as well. But Trading Paints is the better end with the inside line down to turn 3 there as well. Seems pretty orderly for now, but yeah, great racing here for the first few minutes of the Canadian Motorsports Grand Prix.
Yeah, really surprised by how much racing we've seen, certainly at the front of the fields. Really thought that the Pulsars would be able to establish themselves at the front, but anything but so far. But Training Paints Racing Team remaining at the front as it stands. And yeah, this would be a pretty big win for them. Or Screeching Moose Motorsports. Moose Motorsports having a poor time last round. Dropped down to 5th place in the championship now as it stands. But yeah, could well be on for a big points haul. But they are under pressure every single lap as it stands. They cannot get away. And once again, having to go defensive at the end of the entrance straight. This time they survive, but it feels like this might be a matter of when or if.
Yeah, indeed. You can see that massive straight line advantage that the Mercedes have over the Lamborghini there down Andretti straight. Yeah, really getting onto the rear end of the Lamborghini with Trading Paints Racing Team Red and pulling out to the left-hand side, trying to find that move, but the Lamborghini with that really great front end on that car as well will really benefit them to the last sector. Done so already here as DMDH just trying to find their way through and causing Taylor Parsons there a little bit of time there towards Trading Paints Racing Team Red. So that battle is going to continue later on in the race as well. Yeah, Joe Stafford there for Money House Racing Red. Just 22 seconds off the lead, so not a great start for Joe Stafford there. But yeah, as we see on the timing sheets as well, in the HJR Motorsports, a ridiculous lead over the team behind them as well. As we see Twisty Bits Racing in P4 and Digital Spirit DS Racing in P4 there as well, coming through to find their way through the traffic into Moss Corner there as well. It's all so close and so tense here as well. Trying to find their way through the section as Digital DS Racing gets caught out by Fisher Motorsport. Delara as well coming through on the inside of turn 6 there as well. Oh, this bit of collision, and Fisher Motorsports goes spinning round from the very much apex of the exit there onto the Andretti straight and can't find a way to get back on track. Does so now, falls down into last place. So from P5 all the way down to P13 from one move.
I love the profile picture. Profile picture is one of my favourites. I'm not sure who the driver is, whether it's the human or the cat. I hope it's the latter. But he won't be laughing and be smiling after that one, as Digital Spirit DS Racing has come into the pits. Well, that's certainly not strategy, is it? Because that's not going to work when it comes to the fuel stops. As we've got a Porsche off the circuit. I'm not 100% sure who that was. I think that may have been a position loss, but yeah, many places lost their positional split. DS Racing has, I think they've got a penalty for incident 1790. We'll have a little look at that on our sheets and yeah, report back.
Yeah, it's a shame for them guys to get a penalty still in the race, but yeah, they're going to try and do the best they can to try and make it back up to them. It seems to be a race start violation for the 155 car Digital Spirit DS Racing there for them. So a shame for them to have that driver penalty, but yeah, the rules are the rules, and you have to stick by them.
Vision 1 Motorsports now off the circuit. Now, if they reached the wall, they came very close if they.
Yeah, that's damage. Big damage on their car as well on the right-hand side. It seems like they probably either locked up or were sent by another car and sent spinning off into the wall with the right side obviously being crunched up, as you see a replay here of exactly what happened. There seems to be teammates as well behind them, or is it a GT3 scenario here going down into the left-hand and performance corner to reach down into the final stretch here as well. Oh, bit of netcode there from the BMW GT3 behind, sends the number 13 of Vision 1 Motorsports into the wall on the right-hand side there, so, or the left-hand side, sorry. So, yeah, big shame for Kyle, but not pitting, it seems. Don't want to get that damage fixed. Wants to go as long as possible and try and get that damage fixed when the pit strategy opens up. So, good thing is we see Vision Motorsports Porsche as well being sent round into the wall. So, Vision Motorsports not having the best of days so far for them. Yeah, they're dropping all the way down the order into 12th now into 13th, and yeah, it's tricky to find a way to rejoin safely on this track with so much traffic happening. It's going to find a way to try and rejoin now behind the wall. Reverses back on track and has a clean part of the track here to rejoin back on track here now. But yeah, Fisher Motorsports and Talk Creek Racing, it's all happening at once here. Neil Middleton there for Talk Creek Racing, dropping down the order and dropping it, I believe that's at turn 2 there, I think, or into the Moss corner. Yeah, Moss corner is as rejoin. Ooh, very, very close to connecting back into the H field there. But,
and now Jamie Paints racing blue off Jeff Gross, and he's stayed straight back. I think he started very near the back to Gross. And look at that, we've got 5 cars. Well, 2 pair of real picks, so I don't think to the start. But 4 cars going to retire there. And this is sort of the attrition rate that we feared. And you can see, I think, do you already have damage there? No, just the bonnet of that car looks a little bit odd, but I'm surprised that we hadn't already seen a car go off at turn 2, frankly, because that type of incident is so common. Once you dip a wheel into the grass, there's no way you're skipping that. In real life nowadays, you get away with it because it's all tarmac, but in the sim, it's still treacherous.
Yeah, indeed. That's the difficulty here at Mosport as well. The edge of the track all lined with grass in iRacing here, so yeah, just having a little bit of wheels on the outside with the high-speed nature of this track will just send your car looping off into the walls or even into just the grass itself. Into the tyre barriers as well. But we still see this battle for CMSRacing.com Pro and Chris Motorsport 7 of Cameron Barker and Dawson Brock here battling out and shaping out quite nicely here. They're getting a bunch of time on the leader JM Motorsports there as well, cutting the time down to 3 seconds now as well. That battle's really shaping up. So they're both managed to traffic really well here, trying to find a nice comfortable gap, and they have their sights set on Thomas Power there, who took a really great advantageous move at Moss Corner there as well to take P1 and lead the way of that traffic race as well. So great job by JM Motorsports to have that fighting lead, but Cameron Barker and Dawson Brock there really battling out for the 2nd place.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a send, and now Cameron Barker can have a really good run into turn 1. They'll use a bit more of the battery as well. But as they move on to their 12th lap of this race, he wasn't quite able to get it, but that's how quickly this traffic can change. He wasn't exactly held up as such, he was just forced offline, as we almost see 3 wide between 3 different cars to show his power. This is part of the reason why he's been able to build this lead. Aggressive moves like that, and he should be able to get past before they head into Moss Corner, but then has to back out of it. He was expecting the Porsche to leave a lane open on the inside, and you know it's very easy to say just stay on the racing line, but I mean we all know, and it's a lot more complex than that, especially around this circuit where the corners are so sort of natural that they're not, you know, necessarily natural corners. That there's a lot of kinks and there's a lot of alternative lines as well that you can take.
Yeah, indeed, and it all flows together as well. So as it all flows together quite nicely, it's really hard to try and find a way to pass lower class traffic without it being, you know, kind of awkward or losing a bunch of time here as well. But as we see, there's Organized Motorsports number 9 car battling out with the screeching Moose Motorsports. So Trading Paints Racing Team Red have been able to extend their lead by quite a margin, 4.5 seconds now for them. As the traffic doesn't pay dividend for screeching Motorsport or Moose Motorsports there. Taylor Parsons losing a lot of time there with this all prototype. Traffic is coming through as Cameron looks towards the inside. Doesn't quite get that moved on. As we see a spin for one of the LMP2s behind him, we can catch that complete. And I think that's Dawson Brock into the wall that I saw.
And that's a separate incident in the background. Wow. And that's the two. Well, that was one of the Vision cars was off, and then I think another. Oh well, it was World of Sim Racing and My Sim Sports. That is two of our main championship contenders. With huge issues there. Maya Sim Sports at the top of the championship, and also Money House was involved in that as well.
Wow, that's the difficulty of that section as well through turn 2. You know, if you have an incident that's really blindsided for that left-hander as well, it's really hard to react to it unless you have someone sitting there spotting it out. As we see a replay here as well of exactly what happened. We see Carl Burney from Maya Sim Speed Performance there coming through, or the number 3 car, sorry, as we see, yeah, just completely blindsided, couldn't really do much as everyone's trying to check up and slow down for the NB2 there. Not much both of them can do to get that car slowed down with the NB2 car. It's right in the middle of the track, but that's just motorsport for you. You can't really do much about that. And yeah, hard to avoid, and it's just one of them things, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's... Well, I mean, our LMDH field has been decimated, pretty much. I mean, we started with 9 of them. We've only got 5 remaining. Carl Burney tried to continue for a bit, but you could see the impact they had into the tyres. That car will take a fair amount of repair, seeing that they are in the championship hunt. I imagine they'll want to continue. But this could really switch things up. I think Champion Motorsports running in P2, apologies, P3 as it stands, could be in for a huge haul of points. And of course, you do have to finish a certain amount of laps in order to score points as well in this series. So you can't just retire now. They do need to continue. Sapphire, SimSport and Agi Motorsports seemingly with issues. Agi still off the circuit. I think that's at the final corner of the lap. I just hope that he is all clear. At least he might be able to get back to the pits from that position, but if it's a big hit, it might not do in the world of good if there's a lot of damage on that car already.
Oh. That was close there. I just tensed up massively for the leaders there of Western Racing, of Tommaso Basil there, trying to find his way through the BMW there. Main Trading Paints Racing Team Black clutch right on the back of Western Racing there, so the massive lead that Western Racing had now cut down to pretty much nothing there. 4/10 of a second now separates our leaders in LMP2, and that gap is only closing down with the draft these LMP2s have going on the Anjaki Straight as well. So yeah, it's all really good, really tightening up here as well. As I said before, this traffic can make you lose so much time, and there's not much you can do about it. Obviously, in a normal kind of track scenario with a 1 minute 30 lap time, with I suppose less slowing corners, it's more easier to kind of manage the traffic and not lose as much time. But around here, that gap from like 4 seconds can really be cut down to pretty much nothing in one corner.
Yeah, it's only changed hands at the front of the LMP2s, as you're saying. Yep, cannot be settled for absolutely anything. And of course, with safety cars as well later on, those cars really do not mean a whole lot in this series whatsoever. It's guaranteed to go down to the final few minutes. You could even see a move here because Trading Paint's getting a real nice draft, heading up to Moss Corner. But you really need to be comfortable or knowledgeable of where the car ahead is going to position their machine in order to even think about attempting a move around that part of the circuit. Of course, Trading Paint's currently leading the championship. Westset Racing a fair bit further down, in fact second to last, 16th place in the championship. Westset Racing heading into this round, and so would more than double their points if they could win this round of the championship, as we've got another one of our LMDHs off the circuit. This time it is MV Skins Lab DS Racing, and they have had to go back to the pits, and you can see it's a very busy pit lane.
Yeah, very, very busy indeed. And MVH field is being cut down slowly but surely. And yeah, as I said before, it's going to happen at a track like this. It's so difficult to find a nice and clean line for the traffic here. So it's either lose a bunch of time or lose your race, and I know what I'd rather do as well. So as you see, LMP2 leaders coming through. Again, the gap separated to about a second now, as I just mentioned, but the traffic losing a bit of time and staying a bit comfortable as well. Tommaso really getting on them flashes, wanting to, as you said, build that championship lead by keeping this position in P1 here as well. And does so as well very nicely into Moss Corner. Escapes away from Champions Racing Team Black with the help of the BMWs there from Moss Corner. Extends the lead by another 5 tenths of a second now to 1.5 seconds, with Twisty Bits Racing following fairly closely behind, with GSE Esports Racing VSALMP very, very close as well. Looking to probably make a move for as well. The LMVH right behind them as well. Separated by a 10th is these two cars as we see. Just pull out to the left hand side. Oh, gets very close to LMVH. Tries to go around the outside. I think does so. Pulls that move off with no real issue there. Really nice move around the outside there for Patrick and the GSE Esports car as well. And tries to fight their way through the traffic in the first few corners as well. But yeah, lovely move there around the outside. Puts their car up into 3rd place.
Yeah, that was wonderful stuff. To attempt the move in that fashion. Just followed the MDH pretty much and gained almost as much speed. And you can see how he's sprinting away now with the help of that traffic. Could well be one of our contenders for the race win tonight. Once again, big thanks to our title sponsor, Virtual, for sponsoring this series and making this broadcast possible. And of course, Virtual have got their own beginner driver education course. And yeah, it's been created to create a comprehensive course covering all driving aspects, including traffic rules, regulations, traffic signs, and defensive driving techniques. So if you want to try out any of their services, Virtual, whether it's their beginner driver education course, like I said, or their esports leagues, or their simulator hire, do check out their website. That is VR7UAL.ca, virtual.ca, where you can find more details about them. Big thanks to them for making this broadcast and this series possible. As we see, Selena Ward still behind. Remember, took pole position, did training paints, and it looked like it would be just another win for them after a strong run of results recently, which has put them to the summit of the championship. But it's very tricky for them at the moment, but this could be an opportunity as the leader having to go every which way. Eventually the BMW went to the left, that opened up the line to the right. But I mean, you watch this and the first 20 minutes of this race, and I know that the field is thinning out a bit, but when you're watching this, you question how are any of these guys going to get to the end?
Yeah, this track is just a race of attrition. This traffic is not going to slow down at all and not going to get any less hectic than it is now. Maybe with a few more incidents, there's going to be less cars out on track, but yeah, it's going to be very, very tough for these guys to make their way through. As we see 3 tenths of a second now closes between these two leaders, but yeah, the traffic really paying dividends to these lap times.
Yeah, we see if there's any chance, well, a little bit of breathing room for once for these guys. You can see out on circuit they've got about a third of a lap where they've only got a couple of cars ahead of them, and that will be very very appreciated for certainly Basile. You might think that he could perhaps get a little bit of a gap now, but as I say, that got to go offline to get past the Mercedes. Be able to get stopped nice and quickly. Albrecht Motorsports in the background of the circuit, that's into the wall, and that is going to be a big hit into the rear corner. That looks very bad, Owen.
Yeah, I suppose that was probably either a move trying to go around the outside of someone, maybe a GT3, or maybe just a quick wander over to the right-hand side grass, and then if you hit that right-hand side grass at turn 2, it's really hard to save that. So yeah, Jennifer Megan doesn't seem too big a damage, maybe on the right rear there, just the rear end lifted up a little bit, so the error is going to be a little bit more skewed than before, but yeah, he's going with not too much damage, and I think he can take that through to the next pit strategy. You see a replay here of what happened to that car as well. The Albrecht Motorsports car doesn't seem to have too much traffic coming through past the GT3 before turn 2 here. Gets a nice, it's side by side here with the 193 LMP2 car. Yeah, just gets a little bit more nervous at the LMP2 on the left hand side, goes a little bit too wide on the right hand side to turn 2, and then yeah, ends up in the grass, and not much he can do about that one.
Just going in the mad sim racing car, the other driver involved, and yeah, just continuing on his way. I really thought that might be terminal there, that hit on the rear, but obviously, you know, tyres out there rather than a concrete wall, and that very much does help when it comes to damage. GSE Esports round, but they've been able to keep it roughly in the same direction. Twisty Bits Racing move up onto the rostrum positions, but I think that was by himself there for Patrick Barthel, who we've seen with some really strong pace so far, and he's made another mistake. They're almost into the back of the number 5 Mercedes. and that has dropped him out. But you can see he's not got much time to gain in order to get back to 3rd place.
Yeah, there's always the trouble when you make a mistake like that and you lose a position. You're going to be very hot-headed in the car and making a few more mistakes to just go into Moss corner. But all Patrick needs to do is keep his head in the game, focus on the car ahead, which is Jesse in Twisty Bits Racing as well. And again, that gap is separated by no less than 2 seconds or so between 3rd, 4th, and 5th place there as well, with Mad Sim Racing tending on the rear end of that battle as well. But yeah, GSE Esports still in it. Maybe their tires a little bit more damage than the rest of them, but yeah, they're still definitely in it, and not too much of a big damage there for them.
So JO Motorsports leading the way as it stands 10 seconds clear of the rest of the field. And they've now got a little bit of a pocket where it's a bit less busy. You can see it's still around the final corner at the moment where you got a whole bunch of cars. But Seamus Power able to comfortably be out there. We always say willpower is one of the best. Power is one of the best surnames you can have when it comes to motorsports.
Oh, for
up
sure.
there with Scott Speed, obviously. But Seamus Power it's a very good one from the UK and I region. So doing us very proud at the moment. And yeah, he's able to probably burn some hot laps now into the 1:05s on the previous lap, on 1:07 that time round. But these cars consistently 2 or 3 seconds lap slower than what they can produce due to the fact they're constantly having to slalom their way through these drivers. Grizzly Motorsports looking a little bit more comfortable now. They were under huge pressure at one point from Champion Motorsports, but they've been able to just pull away now. Dawson Brock, after that fantastic pole position lap, that virtual pole position lap, looked very uncomfortable earlier on, but he really seems to be in his groove now.
Yeah, for sure. It's very interesting as well. Obviously, Dawson Brock and when Grizzly Motorsports 7 and JM Motorsports as well there with Seamus Power. Them two were very, very close to the saw in qualifying. Probably the closest that we've seen throughout the whole entire classes as well. So big surprise that their times are a little bit more separated than the most of them. But again, Dawson Brock has the fastest lap in the moment with a 1:04.5, with Seamus Power having a 1:05.05. So again, 0.5 of a second difference between the fastest lap time there, but not a lot of clean air to really get that lap time out of the car, especially in this moment here. But yeah, a bit more of a kind of calmer session for these guys at the minute in JM Motorsports, Grizzly Motorsports. As we hear, a full course yellow has just been announced over the radio. Full course yellow now for this race, lap 25 minutes in. And again, it's one of our random full course yellows here for this race. So yeah, one of the cars out on track will be assigned as the leader here. And yeah, this is going to really shape things up. JM Motorsports are not going to like this at all, the amount of lead that they just brought out.
Yeah, they'll be a bit disappointed with that. They would have been hoping that maybe this one could last a little bit longer, but I think they would have been prepared that this could have happened at any point. And well, just so it seems to be getting a little bit more calm, anything but now. And like I said, someone will be assigned the leader, and then we'll have the classes kind of fall into divisions where we'll have the LMDHs at the front, the LMP2s in the middle, and the GTDs at the back. And then we'll have some pit stops as well as, yeah, still some overtakes there from Seamus Power. Maybe a little bit slow to receive that message. I mean, if it was all on GTD cars, then it shouldn't make much of a difference, to be honest. But you can see now on the track map, they are queuing up behind at Moss Corner. And I hope that Seamus hasn't broken any rules there.
Yeah, he does seem a way away. Just in the chat that there from the rest of the guys there. Dawson Brock just coming out of Moss Corner to the right-hand side of the track there. And again, no one really in front of them. So maybe, yeah, that's quite interesting. Maybe Seamus has probably gone a bit too quick and yeah, not listened to too many rules, or I guess we'll find out shortly.
So yeah, we've got Dawson Brook at the front, and yeah, of course, yeah, almost a lap ahead. So yeah, we'll be not entirely sure how they'll figure this one out, but I'm sure the admins will be able to make the order nice and fair before we get back going racing. At this point, I assume everyone's just going to be coming into the pits, I would have thought, or certainly the prototype surely Owen will be coming into the pits. Maybe the GTDs won't be, because they'll have to make 2 more stops from now to the end regardless of if they pit now. Like, if they pit now, they'll still have to make 2 more stops, is what I mean. And so, do you expect that? Do you expect the prototypes to pit and GTDs to stay out, or will it be something else?
Well, I don't know. I can imagine that these guys will probably have that kind of idea in mind to pit early on, but it could end up, ruining their strategy for the race, making a splash and dash or something. But the fresher tires will definitely make a huge difference to these guys here today. So yeah, if you could, and if it's a feasible option, 100% you would pit early on. As we see, they're going back up to full race speed now. So I believe we just got the message that Seamus Power will now be the new leader, and Dawson is going to try and catch back up. So yeah, as we see there, Seamus Power staying on the right-hand side, and Dawson and Cameron over to the left-hand side going at full pace now. So they're going to try and catch back up to Seamus Power and Jerry Motorsports there to get this show under the way. And yeah, so it's going to be a fair few laps until this gets underway for racing.
Yes, yeah. I'm just wondering if those GTDs that Seamus overtook when it seemed like the yellow flag was out, whether they'll be allowed to go past, or whether they'll have to stay behind. Of course, this is, fairly important in terms of you can get very unlucky when it comes to these, where if you're a GTD, you can potentially lose a lap to your other rivals if they're ahead of the leader, because they're able to speed round, catch up to the back of the train whilst you're stuck behind the leader. So I'm not entirely sure how that one will be sorted out, but or apologies, maybe it's just yeah. Maybe I'm interpreting this wrong. So maybe it's Tommaso now, the leader, because it seems like everyone's queuing up behind him.
Yeah, indeed. It seems like most of them are already in a fairly straightforward order. Most of the GT3s have a good order as well, with the LMP2s there, as we see. Yeah, LMP2s have a nice order there, with all of them in a nice fine line all the way down to 7th place or so. As we can see on the chat back there on the right-hand side, all the green dots there being the LMP2s. And they're in a quite good order, so I think they're fine. As we see on the top left-hand side going from Moss Corner, it seems like Dawson and Cameron are still trying to fight their way through in this clean air to try and get towards Shep's Power. But it seems like we're very close to get this underway. As long as we have the LMDHs come back into their train, which shouldn't be too long, we can get this under the way. As we see Dawson and Cameron on the way through, coming out to the rear end of the traffic field now. As we can see right ahead of them on the chat map, they're just about to come out to the threes. And we can get this underway, hopefully, as soon as we can. But as you were mentioning earlier with the pit stops, I don't reckon that a pit strategy would be viable now. I mean, maybe it might be a good idea, but yeah, I don't know. I think if I was these guys, I'd just try and wait for the safety car to go through, properly sort itself out, and then try and fight your way through as best you can. Get in front of JR Motorsports if I was Dawson Brock especially, and try and pit at the very limit of the fuel.
We've also just got this little down period. I think we might have a quick chat with one of our team managers out there. Charles Bishop joins us now, of course one of our colleagues as well at Apex Racing TV. Charles, well, first up, explain your role out there and what team you're representing, and how it's going for you guys.
Oh, sure. Hey, Sam. Yeah, so I am the co-owner, team manager for Olympus Esports. So we're out in the GTD class, currently running 7th. Having a pretty good race so far, keeping ourselves out of trouble, which I think is kind of the key to this race today.
I mean, the attrition rate has been absolutely phenomenal. I mean, in the GTDs, maybe it's not been quite so bad, but I mean, we've had the majority of the LMDHs now with seemingly race-ending damage. What have your guys been reporting, and how have they been able to stay out there and keeping the car clean?
Yeah, it's been basically myself and the co-driver PJC, Paul Joseph Cliss, who's be teaming up with Grant today. And so yeah, so we got I'm looking back, just kind of keeping an eye on the overall thing. Paul is doing a good job of just kind of guiding Grant with the cars that are around him. And yeah, so it has been, and we kind of expected it. This is a very tight technical racetrack. The LMDHs here are, just on the borderline really of this track just almost is too small for them to have any really good multi-class racing. So we kind of expected it to be to have a high attrition rate. Actually expected more GTD cars to be affected. So far so good for us, and like I said, we're just trying to keep the nose clean and stay out of trouble.
We're currently in this full course yellow period. Any temptation for you guys to pit right now?
Don't think so. I think it's going to be a pretty standard. We'll just stay on the strats. I don't think we're going to be trying to do anything special. The Lambo here, we've got decent pace, but I don't think we've got winning pace in the car. I think there's just a couple of really good, strong teams out there that, even on our best day, we're not going to be able to match with them. So we're just going to try and hope for a little bit of racing luck along with just some clean driving.
Awesome. Well, big thanks for coming in, chatting with us, Charles, and of course, absolutely feel free to join us later on as well. Great to get that insight from you guys, and yeah, best of luck for the rest of the race.
Thanks, Sam. Appreciate it.
So that was Charles Bichelle there, team manager of Olympus Esports. Good to see you here. That Paul Joseph Clist will be back out there in the race, partnering up with Grant for today. As I think the field pretty much all in order now.
Yeah, it does seem that way as well on the track map. It looks fairly in order as we see Dawson and Cameron Promise right back up to the leader there. A few cars separating them, but that's what you can imagine these multi-class on the restarts. All the traffic merging with most of it as well. And it seems like all the LMDHs have to fight through the long line of GDD traffic, which is going to be very interesting there to see how they manage it as well. We saw how much of mayhem it caused at the very start of the race, so we'll see what happens here on the restart, which I don't think should be too long until it occurs here. It seems like most of the cars are in a nice order, and we should get this underway fairly soon as well. But yeah, the LMP2 is looking to be the most closed up class in the whole field as well. We have there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cars all together with no separations of any multi-class at all. So they have a nice clean track in front of them to get some racing underway for them guys. Yeah, the MDH is really tight and packed up there with the GTZs as they have their pit stops right now. We see most of them coming to the pits, or at least coming through the pit lane to try and get this in a nice fashionable order. They all come to the very end of the pit lane, slow down. Yes, it doesn't seem like most of them are pitting exactly, just waiting for the classes to sort themselves out and the prototypes to get themselves in order as well. So that is not going to happen then. Ignore what I said, because that is not true. The MDHs will have a nice clean air as the GTZs are going to come out back on track now. And yeah, that's a good idea. Try and create some good racing before we hit multi-class again as they come back on track now in their class order.
Yeah, so I think on that occasion, I don't think the GTDs were allowed to stop. I think it would be a bit of an advantage for them. So I think once the LMDHs are ahead of the LMP2s, which I think will soon happen, I think they are now going to do that that sorting. Then we should basically have the pit lane open and pit stops will be allowed to be made. Then I believe there might be another class sort after that, where potentially we'll see that same routine from the GTDs going down the pit lane, stopping and allowing all the prototypes past before going back to green flag again in a few laps time. But I'm sure the drivers will be appreciating this slight down period of time, and of course this will be allowing the fuel to go a lot further. GTD cars will all of a sudden be thinking, well, maybe an hour and 10 on a tank of fuel. Still a one stop, surely out of reach unless we get several full crossed yellows, and they'd have to be very long full crossed yellows as well. But certainly making their two stop very simple as well. Just got Tommaso Bazil for Western Racing leading the cars around. Probably the easiest lead laps he's had in his entire iRacing career.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely Tommaso's going to be very sitting there comfortable and has control over the lead as well. I just heard over the radio as well that the pit entry is open at the end of this lap as well. So maybe some cars come into the pit lane, but I wouldn't recommend that is the case, as we see... No, that is the case. We see P2 and P3 come into the box. That's Trading Paints Racing Team Black of Selena Ward and Josh Gowan as well from Mad Sim Racing, Michael Pauls from Sapphire Sims with Delta. Everyone coming to the pits apart from the leader. Okay, that's interesting.
And all the LMDHs are pitting as well.
That's a very good idea for the LMDHs to do. As I said before, that the tyres are very, very key to having a great lap time here as well. Same for the LMP2s as well. So it's, yeah, very interesting to see Tommaso not take that opportunity to the pit and get some fresh tyres and fuel on board that car. I
mean, that
will it pay out for him? I don't know. Yeah, I don't think this will pay out for him very well. But
no.
Either way, we see them coming to the pits now. Dawson Brock, obviously in the lead there as well, in the first pit stall for taking that virtual pole position as well. Yeah, that's quite an interesting pit strategy to not pit at this stage in the race as well. Who else do we know of pitting out there? I see another LMDH out on track that hasn't boxed. The GTDs have come into the pits as well, at least most of them as well. Pit entry is now closed, so no longer able for the cars and drivers to get in and change their fuel and tires as well. So yeah, I mean, obviously it appears that the GTDs will have obviously, their clean track in front of them, but LMP2s as well will have to fight through the GTD traffic. So maybe Tommaso will benefit from the clean air in front of him, blast away, and then take his pit stop. But I don't know. I think the gap is far too big for that to be a viable option.
Yeah, I think Tommaso may have made a big mistake. We've got 2 hours of this race to go, and it very much means that potentially for these LMP2s, particularly for the LMDHs, which can go a little bit further on fuel, but even for the LMP2s, we may only have 2 more stops. So you think you can do 40 minutes and then 1 hour 20, and then you get to the 2 hours. So it might be that Westwood Racing have to do 1 extra pit stop from here on in compared to the rest. And we're just being confirmed still that the pace car is still the car number 50. And I think even worse, I mean, what you were saying in terms of maybe he's got the GTDs and he can make a break for it, I think the GTDs might be reordered before we go back to green, which would annihilate that advantage as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think Tommaso's made a bit of a mistake here. Maybe he was hoping that a few of the P2s would stay out with him, and it would mean that, the former second place in the race would have a bit of traffic as well in terms of prototype traffic. But well, yeah, it's not looking good for Tommaso, and he'll have about 5 to 10 minutes of racing before he'll have to make that first pit stop eventually.
Yeah, indeed. But again, I don't know. I have hope. Never say never. The Westwood Racing team may have played an absolute blunder with the strategy here. With if the GTDs don't reorder themselves, then we've seen how much of a time difference the GTDs can make in this race as well at the very beginning of the race. So maybe Westwood Racing can have like a dream start in clean air, and not so much for the training-based racing team that they get really held up in traffic, lose probably about 15 seconds. They make the pit stop as Westwood Racing, and then come back out and does some magic.
I mean, it's almost as though we're writing a movie script right here.
Yeah.
And hopefully this works. Maybe this is the script. That does happen, as the field are mainly back into order. And all cars in the left lane taking a wave by, I believe. So I think that's just to reorganize it so that no one loses a lap. Because what you can sometimes have is, like I said earlier on, you can be very unlucky where GTD can maybe be behind the leader and then they lose a lap compared to their other rivals. And so maybe just a few drivers being told there to go past. In fact, we've got a few LMDHs as well going past, so I guess that makes sense that they'll go to the lead of the field. So they're leading at the green flag because we've no longer got Bazil at the front. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it seems like, Seamus, Cameron, Dawson seem to be on a nice orderly line there, but yeah, most of the MDHs that were in front of Seamus Power there, all just going around to sort themselves out as well. So we should, this is a big should be getting back racing within the next, I'd say, 2-3 laps. That's what I'm going to estimate. 2-3 laps, we should be able to get racing again as the grid will sort itself out. And it seems like as soon as these laps cars, make their way through the field and come back out to the very end of it, we should be able to get back racing here today.
Also, if anyone, any other team managers, any drivers wants to have a chat with us, do check out the Apex Racing TV Discord server. There's a link to that in the description below. If you click on that, then you can sit in the interview waiting area, and whenever we have these full course caution periods, we can check you up and have a little bit of a chat and explain exactly how your race has gone. It's always very insightful for us, really useful when it comes to interviews for us to learn about the drivers, learn about the series, and learn about what's going on out on the circuit as well. So we'd super appreciate that one. This is reminding me a little bit, Owen, of the IMSA events we had, the IMSA Global Esports Challenge last year at Laguna. Were you involved in that one?
I was not, no, but I did watch it. So yeah, I know what you're referring to indeed. But yeah, this is very reminiscent of that for sure.
Yeah, Yeah. So always, always fun these safety cars in terms of bringing the field together, and it really does mix up the order when it comes to the gaps. We saw some big gaps, 10 seconds plus for JO Motorsports before this safety car period, and of course that's now being completely obliterated. Looks like Fisher Motorsports will be leading the GTD class ahead of Dennis Earhart in the Eastside Motorsports Beta car. And well, at the moment, of course, as we've spoken quite extensively about Western Racing leading the LMP2 category, but with an extra pit stop we believe will need to be made. So whilst Basile is currently at the front there, we're questioning, it's questionable whether they will remain there, but we'll see if that unusual strategy of not pitting under the safety car works out for them.
Yeah, indeed. I don't know. I was a believer at the start. Now I'm actually thinking about it more, and I think Western Racing may have maybe kicking themselves right now, just going for this pace out, thinking why did we not pit? But who knows? Who knows, man? I mean, we've seen how much of a difference these traffic can make with the amount of lap time that you can gain and lose, and the amount of drivers that we can gain and lose as well. Then the H field going down to only 4 drivers today, so it's possible. It's possible that this can work out for them. Will it? I don't know. It's a big stretch to ask, but it could happen possibly. But yeah, it seems like most LMP2s have their strategy kind of planned out, with Trading Ranks Racing Team Black being the leader with the strategy so far as well. And yeah, it seems like most of the guys are in a nice order now as well, so we should be able to get underway here fairly shortly. Everyone's in a nice order, so I think we should be going fairly shortly anytime now.
Yes, we'll not be too far away from the green flag coming out. Still Basile at the front of the order, and remaining in that right lane, of course, in order to allow any drivers to move past now. Tommaso is coming into the pits. Has he run out of fuel, I wonder?
I should imagine so, but I do remember hearing that the pit lane entry was closed, so whether that is... never mind.
So the GTDs, I guess, are moving past, and all the prototypes. Yes. We'll see if it maybe just the LMP2s moving past. So, okay, so this makes sense because we already saw the LMDHs get the wave round. They move to the back of the field. Now the LMP2s will go through the pit lane and they'll stop here. That will mean that the LMDHs will be ahead of the LMP2s, and then all we'll need to do is let the GTEs push, and they'll be able to catch up to the back of the LMP2s. However, Jacob Mapellin there has maybe ruined that slightly, because I didn't think he was meant to come into the pits. But basically, this should mean that we have the LMDHs at the front, the LMP2s second, and the GTDs last.
Yes, I'm just thinking as well, as you mentioned earlier, if they run out of fuel, and that could be a very big possibility, because the LMP2 fuel is roughly around about like 46 minutes, 45 minutes. So I don't know. Will they run out of fuel like pretty much as soon as we go green? It might be very close to that point, because as I was mentioning earlier, the fuel doesn't last that long. Like it's not an hour worth of fuel. As we see them come back out on track now. Yeah, you can hear that engine kind of struggling a little bit there as well in the very high gear. Yeah, he's clutching it all the way in.
Yeah.
Yeah, in 6th gear, coasting it all the way. So yeah, they're really, really struggling on fuel here so far. You can hear 6th gear still. Yeah, it's a case of just really, really feathering the throttle and using as little revs as possible to try and get the least amount of fuel out of this car. But yeah, I think they might have screwed themselves over here with the strategy, with not realizing how long this pace car would set. Down to gear 2. Okay. Well, we'll see how this lasts. We'll see what happens with Western Racing. I think it's going to be very interesting to see whether they're going to be okay on fuel at the very end of this pace car lap here.
Yeah, of course, for people just tuning in, we have been under this pace car now for about 25 minutes or so, after an absolutely frantic first 20 minutes of this race, where we lost about 6 of our LMDH drivers with several incidents. Fortunately, we've still got a lot of our GTTs. You can see there, only 3 of them having to attack, and there's only one of our... in fact, actually, to be fair, how many of our GTDs or LMDH is still going? In fact, we've only had 1 retirement. World of Sim Racing are the only retirements. It's now the GTDs will come to the pit, so they'll drop to the back of the order, which will mean that the LMDHs will lead. But yeah, we've only got 1 retirement actually in the LMDHs. Everyone else has had a lot of damage, but got back out there, which is really good to see.
Yeah, indeed. I was going to say that as well. Obviously, it doesn't show any dark labels on their names there, so they're still going, even though they're like 20 laps down as well. And as John Jones there in the Apex Racing TV YouTube chat has mentioned as well, GDD's coming into the pits to let through LMP2. And indeed, you are right, John Jones there. Yeah, GDD's parking in the pit lane, letting the LMP2s go by, and then when they cross the line, they will be able to join back onto the track. And there goes Jay as well, who pitted as well as the LMP2s. So I don't think got them over there with the class ordering there as well. But as soon as they get let by, they will have the green flag for them to leave the pit lane, as they do now. And as you mentioned before, LMDHs, there's a lot of them back on track now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, all of them are back on track, bar one, World of Sim Racing team, even though Race for Car is 18 laps off the lead. So, yeah, interesting that they're back on track now, but again, it's always best to pick up some points where possible, and the amount of points you can get in the championship is a load. So, always best that you can get on track and keep your position no matter what the cost.
Yeah, and in an 11-round championship as well, you gotta come back whenever you can. I mean, you need to score those points, and as you say, there's a lot of points available just for finishing. And so anyone taking the championship seriously knows that they need to get back out there. And of course, this is one of the shorter races as well. We have already had 12 hours of supering on in the year in this championship. And so this one just having to pop back out for 90 minutes to finish the race. Easy as anything for these guys. It won't be at all daunting. This is a sprint format for many of these competitors. I did hear from the admins that this will be the green flag at the end of this lap. So, been under caution for about 25 minutes now, but I think we're about to get back underway again. And it will be the same order, pretty much as what we saw in the past for the MDHs, with JO Motorsports leading the way. Single file restart this time round. And we wait to see, are we going to go back to green flag racing? No, we're not. I must have misheard. I apologise if I'm getting your hopes up. I might quickly drag in Lucas Santos, actually, who I believe is part of the number 5 team out on circuit. Lucas, welcome to the Apex Racing TV commentary box. First, explain the team that you're part of and how the race is going for you guys.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Lucas Santos, the team manager and also driver for the number 5 Screechy Moose Motorsports car. The race for us is going quite well. I believe that the strategy for us is going pretty well. We're sticking to it, and for us, at least when talking to the drivers as well, it's a lot of attrition for the team and for the rest of the hour and 48 minutes that we have here at Canadian Motorsport Park. So as part of the number 5 machine, we're pretty proud of where we are. We just hope that we can keep going until the end of the race in a pretty strong finishing position.
Yeah, for sure. Of course, you guys started up in P3 for this race. Is it just the strategy that says temporarily dropped you down to that 12th position that you're in now?
Yes, I do believe, and the rest of the team also thinks that too, that the strategy that we're taking right now has dropped us a little bit, but we do believe that with the pace that we hold, and of course with just the strategy and what we think is going to happen, we do think we're going to just bring it right back up. We have full faith in our Operation Motorsports number 5 machine here.
And of course, you've got the Training Paints Racing Team Red car ahead of you. Is that your main rivals, you think, for this race? Because I believe you guys were very close in the early stages.
Yes, definitely. Our current driver, Anthony Bill, he's got his target set. Our previous driver, Taylor Parsons, has already got his mind down. So all out right now, we're just trying to make our opportunities work. We're glad that the car in front of us that was previously leading the race is right in front of us. So target right there. But also we're focusing on a good points haul. So trying to see where other competitors are and just believe that we're going to be doing good today.
Thanks for joining us, Lucas. I think we might be getting back to green flag. Thanks for chatting with us, and hope to chat with you later on, because we are back to green flag finally, and it is Showman's Power leading the way in the LMDH category, half a second ahead of Champion Motorsports. The LMP2s have left a big margin to the LMDHs, and be Tommaso Basile leading the way. For how long? We're not
Here we
entirely
go.
sure. Just a couple of laps that he has got to push to try to build some sort of gap. We've got a
Ooh.
big crash in the background though. That is Mad Sim Racing. Fortunately not bouncing back onto the circuit. That will require a tow back to the pits. And Mad Sim Racing on cold tyres, spinning out to turn 1.
Yeah, indeed. Them cold tyres are going to be an absolute nightmare for turn 1 as well. Just losing the rear end there, it seemed as well, going for turn 1 as well. As we see Will Robertson from Fisher Motorsports coming through, down to turn 2, down to turn 3 as well, for the start of the GTD race as well. As we see LMP2 off to the left-hand side, rejoins the track to the right. Doesn't cause too much of an issue, it doesn't seem, as we see just going as well from Mad Sim Racing, come back on the track as well. But we have 10th place in LMP2 as well, off on the circuit as well, joining into the middle of the GTD category. But Tommaso Bazil, with the amount of low fuel that he has in that car, has absolutely stormed away. And Trading Paints Racing Team Black, sorry, I forgot to mention that as well. They're the ones that had that crash, and they are down into 10th position. So Selena Ward, with a prime opportunity to be leading the race after Western Racing's strategy magic, has seemingly crashed out and, end up in 10th place, 16 seconds off the lead.
Well, they've had a fantastic season, have the championship leaders Trading Paints Racing Team Black. But this could be a setback tonight for them. Because, yeah, they've got a lot of catching up to do. But, yeah, incredible the gap that Brazil's got. Maybe those tyres are a little bit better right now. Maybe they're a bit warmer. I'm not quite sure. You wouldn't think it. They've all been under safety car for a long time. It was for Ward. And...
oh, yeah, heavy fuel mixed with the cold tyres as well. Getting on throttle is going to be quite an issue. Luckily, no damage there, but just damage for the rear tyres as well, especially from that massive scrubbing that they had through the spin there as well. So they're going to be looking, especially Selena Ward's going to be looking to try and build that momentum back up to Western Racing, and pretty much ESD Esports as well is going to be the de facto leader after the strategy will play out as well. So yeah, big shame for them. As you said, leading the championship as well, having a super good season so far. And that's going to hurt their championship standing just a little bit if they stay in the position they are. But with the pace they have, I believe they can change that within the next few minutes we have.
We're just chatting to one of the drivers from Screeching Moose Motorsports, and I believe Screeching Moose Motorsports have had a really good restart. I think they've got ahead of Trading Paints Racing Team Red. Now, in the GTD field, it's very mixed up because I think some drivers came into the pits to take a pit stop and many drivers didn't. So we've got Will Robertson, the reason why he's currently leading this race, because Fisher Motorsport Equal did not come into the pits. Now, I believe everyone in the GTD field will have to pit twice to get to the end of the race from here. I don't think anyone can do it on one stop. Albeit, I mean, they might be able to. The drivers who did pit under pits safety car, they might be able to make it. It might be tight, but these guys are certainly going to have to pit 2 more times in order to get to the end of the race. And that applies to everyone in the top 5 right now in the GTDs. Then you've got more complications because I think you've got Kinetic Racing, Champion Motorsports Endurance and Dangler Performance, and also World of Sim Racing Team. I think they didn't take tyres, and they may have just taken fuel, and then the drivers behind that took tyres and fuel because they had a longer pit stop time. So we've got sort of 3 different strategies, I believe, going on right now.
Yeah, indeed. We also have a drive-through penalty for a restart violation for the number 50 car of Western Racing. So, yeah, Western Racing having a penalty there as well. Tommaso Brazil with a really good launch, and again, a really great start as well. 5.5 seconds. Now it's a drive-through penalty for a restart violation of that safety car restart as well. So, yeah, big shame for them. Obviously, they didn't pit under that safety car as well. They have a really great gap now compared to the rest of the field there, but it's all going to be ripped away from them with that drive-through penalty there as well. So yeah, big shame for those guys. We'll see when they start to serve it, probably at the end of this lap as well. But yeah, that is a drive-through penalty for Western Racing.
I wonder where that's going to put them as well in terms of the GTD category. I mean, when they make their pit stop, they're going to be right in the middle of that kind of GTD LMDH field. Here we go. Well, let's see if this is the drive-through or whether it's the pit stop. I don't think anyone's ever done 57 minutes in an LMP2 on one tanker field, but there you go. That's what happens when you're under caution for 25 minutes. So Masso continuing down. It looks like he is just serving his drive-through this time round.
Yeah.
And will rejoin in a lot of traffic, and then of course we'll have to come into the pits for fuel in a lap or two's time.
I also see someone, a GTD off at Moss Corner there. It seems like someone had been stopped for quite a while on the very entry of it, so hopefully we can get a replay of that and see what happens soon. But yeah, Tommaso Brazil, yeah. As you said, 57 minutes on the tank of fuel in LMP2 is quite an achievement, and it seems like it wasn't slowing down anytime soon. As you see a replay of what happened in the GTD field here, we see Dangler performance there coming through on the entrance to Moss Corner. The LMDH, yeah, netcode LMDH off and sends the AMG spinning off into the left-hand side, or just hits the wall. There seems to be too much damage with the tyre barrier there, but yeah, some netcode there sends them flying off into the tyre barrier there. So shame for them. Lost a lot of positions there. Did Jim McGill in that performance car there, but comes back on track and no real huge issues for their car. As we see, Carl Flever, full send racing, really getting the full sends on into turn 3. That was very close to being a rear end to front end collision. But yeah, they're still going on in P3 and P2 there as well. But yeah, again, shame for Tommaso there for Westjet Racing. It seems like their fuel is still lasting on. They don't seem to be pitting anytime soon. Yes, there's a drive-through penalty for car 84. So drive-through penalty there for car 84 there is popped up on the screen as well. Yeah, drive-through penalty car 84
Fisher
for
Motorsports Porsche.
Yeah,
J
that's the one.
That makes sense. So that was Jay Van Meplen, who, remember, came into the pit lane with all the LMP2s. When we had that sequence, hopefully just a mistake there from Jay, and so that is the reason for that penalty. Oh,
and also what's popped up on my screen as well is a stop and hold penalty for the Maya SimSpeed Performance car. So the Maya SimSpeed Performance car, who are doing great in the championship right now, have a stop and hold 1 lap penalty. Reason being for an instant responsibility with a car contact as well there. So they're going to be coming to the pits very soon as well. Yeah, big shame for them. Obviously P7 right now, 14 laps down. Marcy's SimSpeed Performance there. Not having the greatest of races so far for them. And it's about to get even worse at the end of this lap as well for having a stop and hold 1 lap penalty for them.
Yeah, well, awful day for them, isn't it? In terms of, going into this championship, going into this round, looking to extend their championship lead, and of course they had that poor qualifying performance. Only started in 7th place, I believe, but looked a little bit better for them in the early stages until it didn't. And I think they had that instant very early on, sort of 10 minutes in at turn 2, and since then just trying to complete as many laps as they can. Pedersen this time not feeling like he wants to serve that drive-through penalty. Selena Ward for Training Paints Racing Team Black trying to make their way through right now. That is for P11. I think they might be about to pull this one off. You can see really tight in the P2 class. Goes from the outside to the inside. Selena Ward up into 9th place, but now got the GTD car in the way. GTD car pretty much has complete control. Who gets ahead in that battle ends up boxing in the Training Paints car, apologies, the Digital Spirit car behind. And Selena able to make that move stick.
Yeah, it's also the Westjet Racing car who's in the mix of that as well. And of course, with that really low fuel, being able to pull away really loads from the car behind. There's a 3 wide going to turn 2. That's going to end in tears with the GTD as well. It doesn't so. It's not Selena. Oh, that's the Westjet Racing car going to the grass and sending Olympus esports car into the wall at turn 3 there. That's Paul Joseph Clist getting back in the car for the first time. Olympus esports sent flying off into the wall at turn 3 after a move there from Westjet Racing. It seemed a little bit unorganized from them, as we see a replay here of what happened going down to turn 3 here. Maybe not, as we see later again, as we see them come through down to turn 2, on board with Tommaso Brazil there, tries to launch down the inside of 3 wide here, finds the Olympus esports car, tries to, I could say, gets bumped by one of the LMP2s there on the right hand side, but didn't seem to be moving out the way at all for the Olympus car at all. It's a bit of a weird collision there for all of them, as Paul Joseph Clist goes back to pit lane with a tow. So, unfortunate incident for them, and Tommaso comes into the pit lane as well. And I believe that's to probably just get some fuel in the car after an hour of being out on track with no refuel.
Yep. He used no fuel under the safety car. We were under the safety car for 25 minutes there, and he's gone 20 minutes further. So he was using about 20% of the fuel that he normally would do, I think, under the safety car. And that makes sense. I mean, he was clutching it all the way, using barely any throttle whatsoever. As Bjorn Claessens gets into the car. Don't rule them out of Westert Racing, and almost missing the pit box as well. I mean, if that was real life, then there'd be some broken limbs, I think, in that team. But he did just about get there in there, and well, get back out on circuit. So far, SimSport Delta up to P2 now, and it's Patrick Barthel leading the way in the LMP2 category. Of course, at the restart was only P3 was GSC Esports, but due to the mistake from or the pit strategy from Westset and the mistake from Trading Paints, it's given them the lead. They've got a spin now for Money House Racing Black, Austin Story.
Yeah, it's all kicking off again, similar to the start of the race. It's around about a few laps into the traffic scenarios where all this starts to come to a piece. As we see the MDHs as well come through the traffic behind on the track map there. As we see Carl Flever, Full Sim Racing, right behind Fisher Motorsports. So they got past Eastside Motorsports like quite a while ago, it seems, with a really big lead. So they have a load of pace in that Full Sim Racing car. As we see Austin Starry from the House Racing Black go off on to the right-hand side at turn 2, comes back on track, rejoins at the entrance to turn 3 there. Not really too many issues for him, but loses a lot of places in the process of that as well. It's a big shame for them. Hopefully it doesn't seem to be too much damage for their car as well, but they are seemingly fairly slow going into Moss Corner here, but yeah, it's a shame for them to be ended up in the grass, but no real damage for them so far. Damage?
I think, well, he's had 2 offs in the last half lap, and that did look a little bit shaky there for Austin, so I will see if they come into the pits at the end of this lap, but yeah, I do think just by the issues that they had, it could be damage. As Screeching Moose Motorsport, I think, just got past World of Sim Racing Team. Trying to figure out who's actually leading this GTT field. Fisher Motorsport sort of leading, but they didn't pit earlier on. They didn't take fuel. Kinetic Racing might well be leading, but then they took a short pit stop. So I think really the smart money is probably on Screeching Moose Motorsports, who, when we were having a chat with them earlier on, were feeling confident. They took 32 seconds in their pit stop, which means that they took both tyres and a full tank of fuel, it seems. Whilst not everyone took necessarily tyres and a full tank of fuel. So I think Screeching Moose are leading, but don't rule out Kinetic, and don't rule out Fisher Motorsports, because that strategy for Fisher Motorsports might not necessarily be the bad way to go. It could turn out well for those guys who didn't pit under the safety car.
Yeah, indeed. As you were saying before, the one stop could seemingly be more and more possible, it seems. I mean, maybe with a short slash and dash towards the end will be viable as well, but the Screeching Moose Motorsports car will have a really big splash and dash to do at the very end of their race as well. So maybe the Fisher Motorsports have had the better hand with the strategy here, with gaining back that lost time of the main pit stop with the short splash and dash at the very end, which could pay out way more beneficial for them.
It's all going to come to the fore by the end, and of course it's so dependent as well on the cautions. I mean, if we have 2 more cautions and they're 20 minutes each, then that could definitely turn out to be a one-stopper, and we could genuinely see teams do 2 80-minute stints in this GTT field. But if there's no full course cautions to the end of the race, and there might not be, then of course you're definitely not going to be able to do it on a one-stop. So it's sort of a bit of a fortune for people who aren't familiar with this series. It's random in terms of the full course cautions. It's not based on, you know, crashes or anything. It's based on whether a random number generator decides that there should be a full course caution. So really will be tight whether or not those drivers are affected by it.
Yeah, indeed. And a quick update as well on the stop and hold penalty for the Meyer Sin Speed Performance car as well. They have appealed that penalty, and it doesn't seem like they're going to be serving that stop and hold penalty at all anymore now. So they have appealed it, and it seems to be a successful appeal as well, as we'll see. But yeah, we'll keep you updated on that one as well. Unfortunately, they are 14 laps down on the lead car as well, but just to keep you updated, because they are very much so a strong contender for the championship for the series as well. As we see there as well, another pop up on our racing board as well. It seems to be a warning for the number 14 Fisher Motorsports LMP2 car as well there, for an incident responsibility warning as well. So no penalty for them, but just a warning out on track there as well for a car contact. As we see here, JM Motorsports as well, with that, again, fantastic lead. They are really benefiting from these restarts on the first few laps as well. With that, it's got to be said, fantastic move into Moss Corner on CMS Racing Pro as well. With a great move to put them into P1, then pretty much just sailed away from the two LMDHs behind. Now to 8.6 seconds in P1 is JM Motorsports, followed by CMSRacing.com Pro, and then Grizzly Motorsports 7 with their battle with Cameron Barker and Dawson Brock as well. So that battle for P2 has been shaping up all the way through this race as well, with Seamus Power really storming away in that JM Motorsports car at the very front of the field. But of course, the driver change will have to happen, so we'll see if Seamus, his teammate, can have that same potential power and potential speed as well to keep that lead, growing as well, which I have no doubt that it will be. But yeah, we'll see when they met their pistols as well, as we see Cameron Barker as well trying to navigate their way through the LMP2 traffic here. Doesn't seem to be too much traffic in front of them on the track map on the right hand side. Fairly clean track apart from the LMP2s as he slips through. Not too much on the turn 3 there, but yeah, seems to be fairly orderly through these guys in LMDH to keep that gap at a marginal rate.
Yeah, and it's a good mention or good thing to mention, the fact that they are going to change drivers, and I feel like in real life motorsports, obviously you sort of got like the best teams are going to get the best drivers, and so generally the drivers are very evenly matched, and of course the car might have slight differences as well in terms of competitiveness. But out here, pretty much all the cars are the same. I mean, obviously, when it comes to the balance of performance, there might be small differences between the GTD cars, but certainly in the prototypes, the cars are exactly the same. And there's not necessarily, in an amateur league like this, you might have a 3.5K driver and you might have a 1.5K driver. So you can kind of fall into the traps in these scenarios to just expect a team to be able to keep it up, despite the fact that the second driver might be significantly better or significantly worse. And you can see the iRacings there. It's impressive there by how well GSC are doing. But yeah, a big change like that can really change the momentum of a race such as this. So yeah, GSC leading by 8.5 seconds still. Trading paints with Selena Ward trying to make their way through Old Brick Motorsports as well, looking to pull some moves. Will Robertson is under big pressure. This is for the lead in the GTDs. It may not turn out to be for the lead in the GTDs. These guys are on very old tyres, and they should be coming into the pits within the next 10 minutes or so for their first pit stop. And he is having to defend at every possible chance because Carl Felber is desperate to overtake.
Yeah, indeed. You mentioned there with the pit strategy as well. It could be more and more possible for these guys to make that one stop work. If there is another safety car after their first pit stop, then yeah, easily that one stop is made for sure. So yeah, I think these guys at the front, apart from Switch and Miss Motorsports, are kind of hoping for that safety car to come back out after their pit stop on their first round as well, because then they'll have the benefits of saving a bunch of fuel and still keeping that lead as well. And yeah, it seems like Switch and Miss Motorsports has the upper hand on the clean air kind of strategy version of this race without the safety car at all. But yeah, don't count them out for the win at all as well. As well as these guys as well that are giving us a good show with closest battle out on track right now. That's yeah, showing the differences between the cars as well. BMW struggling a little bit through the last sector as well, where the Porsche has that really nice rotatey rear end as well to drag it through the first sector of the track, and the BMW having a bit more of an easy time for the elevation zones, but the elevation really does pay strong for the BMW there. As you see, catching up by 3 attempts there. May have moved up to T3 here, does Paulsen. Carl Fleberg around the outside of T3, tries to get a little bit of a switch back there on the Fisher Motorsports. Eagle car will have the upper hand going to Moss corner here for the elevation changes. The BMW is much stronger than the Porsche. Tries to look down the inside, doesn't try and find a move there too soon, and backs up a little bit there to try and save a bit more fuel for the strategy call as well. But it seems like Carl is really on the rear end of that Porsche there as well, and the final sector where the Porsche comes into a bit more of its own as well. So everything flowing at these GT3s with the, as you said, balance of performance, really skewing how the drivers are attacking these corners.
And all this bouncing is inviting back the drivers who have already made those pit stops. So the leader of the drivers who have made a pit stop is Nicholas Skeets for Kinetic Racing. And you can see just visually there, the gap is not very big. It was over 10 seconds, I think, that Kinetic lost in the early stages after the restart. But now that gap is very minimal. And then, of course, you got the likes of Champion Motorsports, CMS, there, and World of Sim Racing, and then of course Screeching Moose Motorsports, who we believe took new tyres at their pit stop, and that's why they lost their track position. And they're only 9 seconds behind our Screeching Moose, as they've got the same move again. But this time there's an LMP2 in the fight, and this Earhart might be able to take advantage of this one. In fact, if anything, I think that's helped out the race leader ever so slightly. Will Robertson able to take a better racing line there. That was Carl Felber who was having to move onto the marbles. And these guys are lapping about half a second slower than P5 down. So we could have a lead train of about 8 cars if this continues all the way to their first pit stop.
Yeah, which most definitely will. You see the H's on the track map coming through as well, and then you see the long line of LMP2s which will catch them up in around about 1 or 2 laps or so. So yeah, this battle's going to really start shaping up as we see Carl going to the outside. Is it going to be a brave move around the outside? No, so has to slip back into the inside. There's a bit of contact there between the two of them. Carl goes off into the barrier on the left-hand side. That's a huge hit on the left-hand side of the BMW. Engine's blown up as well on that BMW there. So a move around the outside of the full sim racing car leaves them into the wall in a matter of seconds.
How disappointing is that? You're going for the lead, and I mean, the stewards are there for a reason. They'll decide whether this was a racing incident or not. I think it is just a racing incident. I think it's one of those corners where there's so many different lines where you can hug it tight or you can go really wide, that if you're the outside driver, you sort of just got to expect the worst there and give them the whole inside half of the circuit. And I think that was all fair game from everyone involved. It was just unlucky in a corner where there's no runoff.
Yeah, see, the problem for Will there was to, as you said, squeeze to the inside. When that line for that corner, you want to stay in the middle of the track and then come over to the right-hand side for the second of the 2 apexes there as well. But Will was forced into the first apex on the first curve, so had to kind of swing out to the left to come back over to the right-hand side. There's a stop-and-hold penalty for car 14 there as well, as it popped up on the screen there for you now. So stop-and-hold won that penalty for car 14 for an instant there as well. For a car contact, that's twice they've made car contact this race as well. For the Fisher Motorsport Lara car as well, 15 laps down, so their race has gone from worse to worse to worse really, as they're coming into the pits to serve their penalty. Not quite, maybe next time they do it as well. But yeah, back onto the incident with full sim racing as well. It seems like Will just had to kind of deal with being tight on the right hand side, had to swing out, no other choice but to swing the car to the left hand side, and Carl in the full sim racing car didn't really have time to kind of react to that. Tried to keep that kind of tight line going into the right-hander, but couldn't exactly do it.
Oh, that's a slide.
Positioned. And it was indeed a little bit of a slide as well, being under pressure from the AMG behind. With the LMDH just trying to find their way through, they're going to have to be held there for a little bit longer, as the LMD has the inside line to Moss Corner. Seems to be a fairly easy move there for the Eastside Motorsport blue car. Doesn't, in fact. Fisher really staying around the outside there on the left-hander, and does so. Keeps that move beautifully around the outside there, but doesn't have the momentum of Andretti down the Andretti straight here. On the Eastside Motorsports, Beta has the benefit of the straight line speed of the AMG there, as the MDHs are separating through. It's all kicking off now on lap 57 for the GTD category here, as it seems like Eastside Motorsports Blue is going to have, a fairly easy ride going into the last sector here against the Fisher Motorsports, as the LMP2 of Western Racing was goes into the side of Eastside Motorsports Beta as well.
Yeah, all of a sudden, a whole flux as we've got one of our first GTDs in, so we knew that they were going to have to come into the pits soon. And Will Robertson is into the pits, and look at that, he has to take the first pit stall. That's good awareness there. I think his teammates must have told him where to line up, because so many drivers have missed an early pit stall like that over the years around this circuit, and many others. And maybe just wanted to get rid of those tyres because Robertson was really struggling in those closing stages. And of course, we're nearly at the halfway stage. So, as the 67 is almost off the circuit, and that's a lost position there. That's Champion Motorsports ahead of the 67. That's very big, because Champion Motorsports is now leading out of the teams who have made pit stops before, and ever since the restart, it's been Kinetic leading the drivers who have made pit stops, but now it's Champion Motorsports, and so in a way that's the effective lead. But then obviously, as I've said a few times, don't rule out Screeching Moose, because Screeching Moose took tyres, so you could argue that they're basically ahead because they're going to have pressure tyres for the next 40 minutes. But either way, Champion Motorsports, that is a big move on Kinetic.
Yeah, indeed, and it's a fairly good strategy call as well. Obviously, they had to pit eventually, did Fisher Motorsports in the Porsche there as well. But yeah, it was a good chance to pit at that precise moment as well. As we see the Lamborghini have a little bit of a bad exit at the last corner there. A bunch of racing going on here for the GTD categories. We see all types of racing going on. Look at the seats there for Kinetic Racing just coming through there. It's turn one as well. But yeah, it's good for Fisher Motorsports there to pit fairly early on and avoid all this traffic and avoid this lost time. So he could have a nice clean air in front of him to build up that momentum for when the pit cars do eventually have their splash and dash, that he comes out ahead of them. So good strategy call there to pit fairly early on in terms of their strategy, and we'll see when the rest of them come in for those that haven't pitted already.
Yeah, it's still, because yeah, this battle raging on now. 3.5 seconds. Eastside Motorsports have built up. Of course, that's partially because the P2 driver came into the pits, but still really good news there for Eastside Motorsports. Just to really demonstrate just how much they were being held up previously. Of course, it'll be Champion Motorsports, the next to make a move on off the SS Racing, but will off the SS Racing have to make a pit stop? Will they be able to make a pit stop? Because if they have the driver go for a move into the final corner, then options may well be limited. But they are able to continue one lap further. Eastside Motorsport are not though. Oh, they've missed the pit box. They've gone too far. Yeah, they're reversed, but you can get a disqualification for this.
Wow.
How they got away with that?
Not quite. Oh, that's trouble for Dennis in the Eastside Motorsports beta car there. Yeah, that's going to be their strategy way off than what they thought they would be there. So they're going to drop way behind the Fisher Motorsport Porsche car as well. It's a big, big shame for them. And that's the problem with these shorter pit boxes as well. With the amount of cars here, it doesn't really like the fact that there's just so many cars in the race as well for these pit boxes to assign a pit box to as he comes in. Doesn't seem to notice that his pit box is so early on, neither does his team as well, compared to Fisher Motorsports that knew they were the first one there. Yeah, needs to get that car in reverse. Does it so? Reverse is too much as well. Lucky not to hit a DQ here as well, but yeah, stops too far back and has to go forward again. That's going to be so much time lost for the Eastside Motorsport beta car there. So really unfortunate for them guys. We'll see where they come out in terms of on-track performance compared to Fisher Motorsports Porsche as well. Yeah, they are 12 seconds behind the Fisher Motorsports class. So 12 seconds lost through missing their pit box. Oh! As we see a Lamborghini there off to the left-hand side as well.
Is that off the S's?
Yeah,
no,
Trading Paints.
It's Trading Paints. Gosh.
Yeah. Wow, okay, so that's caused quite a bit of mayhem at the final corner there. Off the S's, F and the S's Racing having to pit pretty much without any option there, as they are still stuck there because, yeah, the amount of traffic that's coming through this final corner as well. It's a big shame for them, even though they are 14 laps down. They are still in a kind of fight for positions here with a few other teams out there as well. Yeah, they literally cannot move. As Western Racing. Oh, their race has just gone from bad to worse as well, as they are now spinning in Ross's corner as well. I wonder how they ended up there. Must have spun it on the exit down towards Andretti straight and looped it into the grass. But yeah, beyond that, they're not having a fantastic time now. A lap down from the rest of them, and their race is not how they imagined it at all. Well in 10th place here as well.
And if you can stay on the lead lap, you've got a good chance, because you know a full course yellow will pretty much even everyone out, and you'll just have cars to. That's what Julia's now just giving up on that one. I think a wise decision. There was a small gap potentially, a couple of smallish gaps, but yeah, didn't decide to go for it. At least it's a very small toe when you're towing back at the final corner. So Nicholas Skeets now into second place. We've got Champion Motorsports leading the way. And now 1.8 seconds ahead of Kinetic Racing. World of Sim Racing we haven't really talked about a whole lot. Andreas Quintana started down in 14th place, did World of Sim Racing. Up into 3rd place, and that's a legitimate 3rd place. And then we've got Screeching Moose Motorsports behind them, who I've been a bit disappointed by their pace, if anything. Anthony Bull looked so quick in the early stages. Remember, I think he was running in 2nd or 3rd position in the early stages, but despite the fact that he's got a few teams ahead of him who he'd expect to catch and pass, hasn't quite happened. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh, because he did have some pace and some gap to make up because he took a longer pit stop than others. But he's got a bit of work to do to catch up to those cars ahead. But you can see that he's got Mad Sim Racing all over his rear, along with Dangler Performance as well.
Yeah, indeed. The strategies have all come into kind of effect here as well, with the traffic being such a huge influence in the strategy calls as well. Yeah, Swedish Motorsports coming back and forth with the strategy here as well. So, yeah, it's not all playing out for how these guys wanted, I'm pretty sure. But, yeah, seems like all our GGs have pitted now. So this is our standings for now. Fisher Motorsports, Porsche, who was leading the way before the pit stops, are now dropped down to 32 seconds behind as Trading Paints Racing Team Red spins, as well as Trading Paints LMP2 there as well. So both Trading Paints cars in different classes have looped it together. Well, that was an instant between the two of them, but if that was, it's not going to be a very nice call on the... Oh
Oh
and
no,
Trading
what?
Paints Racing Team Red has gone too quick onto the grass and found himself into the Mobile 1 concrete wall. Wow, okay.
I mean that is something that that you'd expect to learn in a driving school, like virtual esports, because that just seemed to be a yeah. I mean, I'm just fascinated how he's managed to reach the wall there. Unless there was maybe another car approaching, but yeah, they just made the exact same mistake. It looked like great avoidance from, well, sort of good avoidance from the MTHs. And then let's see what Hazard does here.
Yeah, it just takes it way too quick onto the grass.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and that is, yeah, unfortunately, that is a solid wall. Sometimes iRacing likes to put invisible walls there as well, and he's just gone straight into that one as well. So, yeah, not the greatest day, or not the greatest of Moss corners for both Trading Paints Racing Team, doing the exact same incident, the exact same corner as well, with the GTD there coming off the worst of it as well. As 50 Bits Racing, we see in P2 currently, as we see a replay of what happened to the Sapphire Sport Delta car of Michael Poole there as well, going to turn 3. Is it a loop situation? Yep, too quick on the entry, loops it around and goes spinning off into the grass as well. So yeah, shame for Michael Poole there. Joins back on track, not really going into anyone as well. Keeps out the wall, which is fairly respectable as well. Just has a nice old chip into the grass and then comes back on track nicely as well. But yeah, all happening off in these, well, halfway through the race pretty much, in 1 hour and 1 hour 25 minutes in, out of 2 hours and 40 minutes. So yeah, it seems like GSE Esports have, well, a great race so far, with being 12 seconds ahead of everyone else so far in front of 50 Bits Racing, Sapphire Sport Delta, Albrecht Motorsport, VRG Sport as well. And it seems like that battle for second place in MP2 is fairly closed up as well. This is battle for 6th and 7th.
Oh, and off goes Digital DS, but somehow, well, how did they save that? Looked like they got a whole lot of grip maybe on the curb on the rear tyres, and it hung on. That was a miracle.
Yeah, they must have just slammed on the brakes or something as it rotated around, because the rear's just locked instantly. He's able to get so much grip out of the run from it as well. So yeah, drifts too far to the right hand side. Has to take a interesting line for the grass there. And yeah, must be said, a fantastic save there from the car there to save it very well. As we see a drive for penalty of the car 17.
SDK Motorsports.
Oh, so in 11th place there, 16 laps down for them, and they get hit with a drive-through penalty for car contact as well. So maybe we can see a replay of what happened there, as we see Michael Poole going into the pits for a fresh set of tyres and changing for Thomas Fisher in Sapphire Sport Delta. So yeah, they're taking their pit stop fairly early on as well, and they will come back out, I believe, just behind the Division 1 Motorsports car. Oh no, sorry, they are behind the Division 1 Motorsports car already.
And the pit stop window is very much open now for these guys, because the fuel should be able to go about 40 minutes, even without any full course cautions. And so you got maybe about 1 hour 20, and we've got 1 hour 15 of this race to go. So you can easily make it from here with two more stops in the LMP2s. So expect to see a few more drivers do that in the next few laps. Of course, the vast majority of LMP2s pitted under the safety car. The only exception was the Western Racing car, now driven by Bjorn Claessens, who decided to stay out, and then, which was a bad mistake from them. It meant that they had to make an extra pit stop compared to the others. They got a drive-through for a safety car infringement as well, and it's that day's gone absolutely terrible. The spin as well did not help. Andy Banfield into the pits as well for VRG esports, and that very much indicates that these LMP2s who pitted under the safety car very much reaching the limits now of their fuel load. Expect the rest of them to pit in the next couple of laps.
Yeah, as you mentioned there with Western Racing, it's a shame that we couldn't see the final. Oh my goodness Christ, that was very, very close there at turn 3 with the Fisher Motorsports car, that is, I believe, the 84 car there in the GTD as well. But yeah, that was very close between the Western Racing car and the Porsche. But yeah, it would have been interesting to see how their strategy would have worked out without the safety car infringement and the spins there as well. As we see, the number 32 BMW off into the wall at West corner on the left-hand side. That is Moneyhouse Racing Black, who are currently 6 laps down. Have a trip for the grass, and it seems like the suspension is fairly broke on that car. In fact, it's, yeah, the suspension's gone. As you can see, it's Tokyo drifting all the way down the Andretti straight there. Looks pretty cool on the camera, but I don't imagine it's pretty cool while sitting in the cockpit of that car.
Yeah, if you sped it up by 300%, then it would look really, really good. But at this pace, it looks rubbish. And
Yeah, it doesn't look ideal.
He needs to hope that everyone avoids him. I mean, this would just be better just to tow back, honestly. I mean, you're going so slow at this point that I think you're losing time, if anything. And I just hope that everyone going over the crest gets a good enough vision of that alien car ahead. Car number 11 has also got a penalty.
It's Division 1 Motorsports there with a car contact warning as well, or car contact infringement. That's Matthew Allenson for Division 1 Motorsports 11. They're currently sitting in P6 right now, 43 seconds off GSE Esports. They have a stop and hold 1 lap penalty here. And that was at the 1 minute and 7 mark. So, yeah, quite a while for that penalty to come into a full effect. But, yeah, they have it now, and they have to serve it at some point. And, yeah, that's not going to be the best news for them, as we see also a drive-through penalty. I don't know if this is... Yeah, no, we've mentioned that one before. Sorry, my bad. But, yeah, just a stop and go penalty for Matthew Allenson there for the replays we see here coming through. Seems to be... much happening there on the last sector as he comes through. Yeah, I can't really see it very well on my end. As we see, yeah, BMW, it seems, tagged for BMW at the front end there. And just spinning around into the wall at the last corner for them. So, stopping our penalty for them. The number 11 car, currently sitting in P5 right now. We have Albrecht Motorsports into the pit coming in. And yeah, they have to serve it at some point during this race.
And like I said before, 1 lap penalty, really costly if you can stay on the lead lap. Full course caution brings you right back into play, but once you're 1 lap down, then it can be very tricky to get yourself really back into play. And once a full course caution comes into that scenario, often you can remain a lap behind, whilst the driver ahead of you, who's just under a lap behind the class leader, they gain pretty much a lap because of the fact that they can get right back onto the rear of the leader and make up upwards of a minute potentially. So really it's bad news for them. We got the leader off. These guys have been absolutely dominant since the restart, but that is the first mistake from Patrick Barthel we have seen for GSE Esports. These guys have not pitted, very old tyres, and they'll still keep the lead after they make their pit stop, but this has just added a little bit of complication for Patrick, who's been exemplary so far in this race.
Yeah, the lighter car and the worse tyres as well. That combination can be quick, but it also can be very sketchy as well, as you noticed, understeering off into the grass on turn 3 there. But yeah, keeps a fairly decent margin. As we see, Twisty Bits Racing, Digital Spirit DS Racing, and Vision 1 Motorsports 11 coming to the pits as well. Vision 1, I believe, 7 the penalty as well. But Patrick stays out, keeps his momentum going. Doesn't seem to have that much traffic in front of him as well, so it's a benefit to stay out at this point as well. Get the benefit of clean air and try and find some decent pace in the car to try and extend the lead and try and hopefully do some damage limitation for that spin or that off track at turn 3 there as well.
Yeah, surprised he's been able to go as far as he has, as that's the 96 car in front of him, just having to make their way past. Still got, by the way, out of the 43 cars that starts this race, I believe we've got 36 still running, which frankly, considering the amount of incidents that some of these drivers have had, is impressive. Fantastic job from everyone to work so hard to get back out onto the circuit and to reach the checkered flag. 1 lap stop and hold for the car number 11. I think we knew that one already.
And that's a separate incident, actually. I just popped up,
okay.
yeah, popped on my sheet. The first incident was filled by the number 32 car. So that was a protest done by the driver on track about an hour and 7 minutes in, and this was a minute and 27 into the race as well. So as you see, GSC Esports pitting from the lead as well. We'll see where they come out in terms of their competition behind them. But yeah, another stop and hold penalty for the number 11 car. Doesn't seem to be their day at all for now. CMSRacing.com Endurance in the lead, but not by much though. Being very under pressure from World the Sim Racing team behind, 5 tenths behind the fellow BMW driver as well. Next BMW being 12 seconds down the road as well. So that battle is shaping up nicely between them two at the very front. I believe they are on pit strategy as well, so they are full-on leaders for this race so far. Switching Bruce Motorsports that we talked about before being 7 seconds behind, so they have lost a little bit of time compared to when we last checked him in the GTD field. As we see Andreas Quintana there for World Sim Racing team, trying to catch on to the back of CMSRacing.com Endurance, losing a little bit of time due to the LMDH. But yeah, that battle is shaping up fairly nicely with Kinetic Racing only 2.5 seconds behind that lead pack as well. So that battle of that top 3 is shaping up quite nicely into the mid parts of this race.
Another shout out to our main sponsor for this championship and the guys who are making this broadcast and this entire series possible. Virtual, of course Virtual with their brand V-Sports based in Ontario. And if you're based in that region, then do definitely check out their simulator hire availability. Whether you are looking to get into really any simulator, they have got it available. And yeah, if you're available in the area, then you can get yourself just a 1-person rig, or you can book out the facility for your friends and family. They've even got motion rigs as well, which is really cool. Anyone who's tried them, they know that it's an absolute game changer. So if you're based in that region, absolutely do check it out. And I think they've also got some golf simulators as well. So yeah, if you're based in the Ontario region, do check out the virtual rig hire. If you visit VR7UAL, so virtual, and then esports.gg, you can check out more information. There was a car in the middle of the track. Do you know who it was, Owen?
I only saw it for a split second. I think it was HAC Racing, I'm fairly sure.
I think you're right. Yeah, it was Jack, wasn't it? Yeah.
That's it. As we see Dawson, Brock, and Cameron as well. They're swapping driver as well in the top of the DH. As we see Thomas Fisher for Sapphire Sport Delta spinning out at the top of the hill at Ross Corner there, losing a lot of places there, losing the podium place as well. They're dropping down to 4th place and can't really get back on track in time, losing 5th place, 6th place now, I'm pretty sure. This goes past it. No, 6th place has just come behind them. There's going to be a drag race between the two of them. Not so much so anymore. Drops down into 6th position from 1 mistake. Wow. Okay, so Sapphire Sport not having the best of races here so far. Well, did have a good race until that moment where they dropped down to 6th, but maybe can try and build some momentum back up at the pace that they showed before, as we see Shepherd's Power coming into the box as well to change driver. I'm pretty sure Shawmus with a, well, I must have said a fantastic race so far with a brilliant move at the very beginning of the race as well. Changes driver as well, as Jonathan Oshalim comes into the car for them, and Joe Stafford comes in for Money House Racing Red. Oh, never mind, that changes driver as well to Nolan Hodgson. Thomas Fisher for CMS Racing Pro gets in the car and is chasing down that lead as well, as I see Adam Shipstone as well comes into the car for Grizzly Motorsport 7, and that has actually gained quite a lot of time in CMS Racing Pro as well. Around about 15 seconds has been gained for them in the pits as well. So I wonder if they did anything differently, or we missed something before they come into the pits there to gain that much time. But either way, they're out on track now, and we'll see what they can do to try and build their momentum.
Yeah, quite a big gap being formed there. So yeah, 15 seconds between the top two, and then 17 seconds between 2nd and 3rd. All it takes is one of those full course yellows and that can be absolutely obliterated. And well, if one of them comes with half an hour to go, you could see a 5-lap shootout potentially to decide the race victor. But we haven't had any for over an hour now. Still the potential for more, as we've got a move for 5th place. Sapphire making their way back up. Was in 2nd place, and it does demonstrate just how close this LMP2 field is. That one spin, as we've got Twisty Bits as well losing out. Albrecht Motorsport are all of a sudden up to 2nd place. What a few laps for them to be in 4th place just a few moments ago, and now they're making a break for it because Twisty Bits being held behind a GTD, and Albrecht 20 seconds off the lead, but a very comfortable 2nd places now.
Yeah, it's a great move here throughout the LMP2 field as well, with Albrecht having the also important move into Mosport with the traffic there, really pretty much blasting away with a 2nd gap now as well. So yeah, great stuff from the LMP2 field so far. Even though the gap, it does look quite big, they all shaping up quite nicely into really good battles here in the mid part of the race as well. As we see David Anderson in the chat there, cheering on CMS as well for double wins, and hopefully today they can get that done in the LMDH and GTD category for them guys as well. So yes, of course, tomorrow on Apex Racing TV we have the IRTES series as well, which I'm looking forward to commentating over as well. But yeah, CMS Racing have a very successful race today, and hopefully they can get them through for the final hour that we have here today at Mosport.
It was apologies for my nearly interrupting you there. And I think I just saw like an NFDH very slow on the outside of the track, but I can't figure out who it was because I didn't see any of them around that area. But yeah, not entirely sure, or maybe I was imagining things. I don't know. It's a long race, these 1 hour 40. We have done much longer on Apex Racing TV in the past, and with every minute that goes past, your sanity does evaporate. 6 hour races with 10 odd drivers really do push the human mental state to the limit, but fortunately there's no pushing on this because there's such an entertaining race that we have continually enthralled by what is going on out on circuit. JO Motorsports, of course, with Jonathan Oshalim, and we find out is the strength and depth there for JO Motorsports to keep this up and take a race win for what I believe would be the first time this season. Jim McGill, the Dengler Performance, he's into the pits, and so these are now the drivers who pitted under the safety car now coming into the pits, so they can, well, I say easily, not necessarily easily make it to the line, to make it to the finish without a safety car. I mean, they might have to do a little bit of fuel saving, but it should be fairly simple for them. Certainly a no-brainer to save that little bit of fuel. And yeah, they'll just be going to the end with whatever driver they've got in the car now.
Yep, indeed. It's going to be interesting to see how this strategy kind of plays out for them. I'm particularly interested in how Fisher Motorsports Porsche gets on as well towards the end of the race. They've lost a fair bit of time to the leaders at the very front of the field as well, as J-Van Meppelin there in the Fisher Motorsport Porsche. But they could have the upper hand with the small splash and dash at the very end compared to the leaders at the front as well. As we see CMSRacing.com and one of the sim racing team really battling out as they both pit right on cue. So let's see what the gap is like compared to them two, compared to our previous net leader, Fisher Motorsport Porsche, to see what it's going to be like at the end of this hour mark of the splash and dash as well. Very late pit box for Andreas there as well. I expected him to pit way earlier, and I thought, is this just a drive-through? But no, pits fairly late on in the pit boxes as well. As Grizzly Motorsports number 9 car comes in for David H. Baker 2. So we have Screeching Moose Motorsports now taking the de facto lead, and it might be pitting in the next few laps or so as well. But yeah, all these guys releasing from the pit box fairly early on. Let's see where CMS Racing Endurance comes out compared to the sim racing team. As we see, they're still in their pit box. Doesn't get released from the jacks too soon. Yeah, they still keep the lead there, and by quite a margin as well. Really successful pit stop for them. Gains quite a lot of time on the sim racing team from Marco A. Pereira. As we see Isan Motorsports Beta as well coming to the pits. And now they know that their pit box is right at the very beginning. There we go.
Oh, they made it. Good job.
It's always the worst.
Feels like they came in quite recently, didn't they? But I guess they've taken that pit stop ASAP. Does often make sense to pit as early as you possibly can, to make your last pit stop, because if a safety car comes out, then what you don't want is the field to be all congested up and then you to still have a pit stop to make. So actually, it sort of makes sense to make your pit stop now. So if there is a full course caution, then you stand to benefit. It's not like there's some sports where, or some motorsports, where you want to pit just after, some motorsports where you, or of course NASCAR, you want to pit during a caution. But because of, in this series, you got the pit lane closed for a couple of laps under the safety car, and the field gets bunched up before you're allowed to into the pits. You actually want to pit just before the safety car. So I think that's the reason why they're pitted a little bit early on that front. Hopefully that sort of made sense. I was trying to articulate that point as well as possible. Julian Leonhardt into the pits, and that is, oh, well, it's a tricky pit entry here. And has he been able to get into the pits? No, he's gone into the paddock.
So, this must have been before their pit stop, obviously. So yeah, the replay from I think the driver beforehand as well. Yeah, this is pretty much where our live feed started. So unfortunately for them, they lost pretty much 20 seconds there, almost at least, to come into the pit stop as well. We see switching Moose Motorsports of Anthony Bill coming into the pit lane now. So let's see where they rejoin. In terms of the rest of the field, you can see smoke down there at turn 1. I don't know if you caught your eye on that, Sam, at all, but I just saw smoke at the end of turn 1 there. Not sure who that was, but either way, we see Anthony Bill there coming for switching Moose Motorsports, and let's see where they come out in terms of the rest of the field. As Fisher Motorsports Porsche will now take the next race lead on Jay Van Meppelin there. Let's see where he comes out compared to the rest of them. Oh, yeah, very slidey there.
Final pit stop for Jay. Remember they had a safety car infringement earlier on, which
yes,
may never have to take a drive-through penalty. That's why Jay's a little bit detached. So Champion Motorsports back to the lead. Border Sim Racing in second place, Kinetic in third, and it should be a good indication of what the running order is going to be to the end. Pretty much no one else has to got a pit stop. A few with the GTD still need to come into the pits to the end. Oh, we've got a car for the second. Can they get it back on the brakes in time? Good recovery there from Jordan Eriksson. But Trading Paints Team Racing Black, they're up in 4th position, of course, going for the championship as well. And that could have been a whole lot worse there for the 19 if he hadn't got on the tarmac when he did. But now we got 2nd place, and Champion Motorsports have avoided the wall. That's the first car we've seen on the grass at turn 2 who hasn't reached the wall. And Champion Motorsports are able to continue on their way, then they haven't lost a position.
Yeah, very, very good recovery there to keep it nice and controlled on the grass as well. Not let it drift out to the right-hand side wall and get it back on the track nice and safely as well. But yeah, lost a lot of time there to Grizzly Motorsport 7. But Grizzly Motorsport 7 not seemingly having the pace that we saw at the beginning of the race here. So they have dropped back a fair bit actually, and CMS Racing Pro damage limitation there for a mistake, only dropping to 9 seconds in front of the Grizzly Motorsport 7 car as well, as we see almost a 4 wide there between LMP2s and GTD as well, with Thomas Fisher coming through to clear this bit of traffic as well, as you see Western Racing in front. And yeah, they've been able to have that mistake with not too much damage towards their car or their lap time too much, but yeah, definitely not going to be ideal. Yes, as we see Western Racing there on the send with the AMG, 3 wide there for our 3 classes in this race today. It seems to be nice and orderly through that section now. Yeah, with a bit of heart in the mouth moment for most of the drivers there.
Yeah, that was real close on that part of the circuit. But yeah, it's just been the way that this race has been for the entirety of the 1 hour and 46 minutes. And to be fair to the drivers, the attrition rate in the past really hour since the restart has been really good. It was a bit concerning after the first 20 minutes, how many cars would we get to the end, but we've had barely any retirements since. And so the driving stands have really improved as the drivers have kind of got used to how to deal with the multi-class around this track, which of course for some of the more experienced members on iRacing, it will be very well known, but seeing as this circuit has been replaced in the multi-class series by some of the newer circuits, some of the Grand Prix tracks which have been added to iRacing in recent years, it's not quite as common knowledge as it once was on the simulator, as Champion Motorsports are coming under huge pressure. Mark Nister still leading the way, but World of Sim Racing I think might just have the advantage right now, They were 10th slow on that last lap, but generally the pressure has not relented.
Yeah, indeed. I still remember their pit stop as well with CMS Racing. They had a really, really, really great pit stop as well. 2 seconds quicker than the sim racing team behind them, but that gap has really closed up. And that can be due to obviously the traffic as well. It's just through that traffic passing there. CMS Racing losing a fair bit of time to the sim racing team, and Kinetic Racing getting involved as well. So now a three-way battle for the lead, separated by only 1 second. So yeah, nice little battle here in GDD for the last hour or 50 minutes of this race so far.
Albeit, I'm not sure if these guys... Oh no, apologies, I'm being thick, ignore me. I'm looking at Screeching Moose, 17 seconds behind. A little bit surprised that Screeching Moose haven't got back into it. Like, their pace seemed... I know I criticised them a bit unfairly, I think, a little bit earlier on. But even back then, they were like 7 seconds off the lead. Now they're 17, so I'm not exactly sure what's happened to them. Do you recall what happened to Screeching Moose?
I can't really remember what happened to them, though. I mean, we haven't seen much of them so far lately, but yeah, it doesn't seem that they've had a comfortable ride after their pit stop so far. But if we get a replay or something of what happened to them, that would be great. As we see, Eastside Motorsports. Oh my god, that was very close to rejoining.
Oh, and it changed for the lead as well. World of Sim Racing lead past Champion Motorsports, and it's all suddenly kicked off with an LMP2 also off the circuit.
Wow,
but yeah, World of Sim Racing are leading this way, and frankly, it's been coming, and already they are pulling away from the rest.
Yeah, indeed, obviously being massively, massively helped by this, like, the bundle of traffic that's going on right now, with Eastside getting involved as well, that are currently a lap down, so Eastside need to move out the way as safely as they can with this amount of traffic that's behind you. As you can see in the background there, the LMP2's coming through and flashing the lights of CMS Racing Pro because they know they want to get right on the rear end of what the Sim Racing team at the time they lost, but they are not moving at all so far, and frankly can't the amount of pro times that are around them so far, so they need to find a good spot to move, preferably in the right-hand side lane of the start-finish straight, but they have lost a second, or 2 seconds in fact, to what the Sim Racing team in only 1 lap so far, with Kinetic Racing really breathing down the neck of CMS Racing Endurance as well. So yeah, not a very successful lap 85 for CMS Racing, and very successful lap for the Sim Racing team.
I mean, this is really painful for Mark Knister, and someone's gone in the wall.
Westset Racing, that is.
Oh man. Oh, I mean, I don't know if you could have a more contrasting two parts of the race. Like, the first half hour was so good for those guys, and it's so bad now for them.
Yeah.
So still Leonhardt's still ahead. I'm not sure what the blue flag rules are in this series, to be fair. Don't know if they do have to let go. Of course, usually in sports car racing, it's the responsibility of the car behind to make a safe pass, and if they're not able to get past on pace, then you know, they'll stay in that order. But 3.7 seconds, and they only made the move 90 seconds ago.
Yeah, I mean,
the gap that's been made.
I think they'd like to think it's all of the pace, but I think it's more just the fact that they've, traffic, and especially this Eastside Motorsports car that is not getting out of the way. I assume the blue flag rules are fairly standard, which is to, move out of the way of your own classes. They are still not moving at all. So Mark Knister probably really flashing and being very aggressive there on the Eastside Motorsports car, understandably as well, as the Eastside tries to almost defend it in a way coming through. I mean, yeah, he's flashing as well. I don't really understand why. The blue flag rules should hopefully state that they should be able to get out of the way, but Julian's not so impressed that they did that much of an aggressive move. But yeah, CMS Racing, and especially Kinetic Racing, are going to be very happy about this.
Oh, yeah, that's a sizable gap now to make up to the end of the race. I think the initial overtake as well, which allowed World of Sim Racing past, and it was involved in the traffic as well. As it's loose again to the 78, they don't want to have to make that move all over again, do they? And that was fortunate to dip a wheel onto the grass or the dirt like they did, and to still be able to take a fairly normal racing line. By the way, of course, another shout out to our sponsor for this event, Virtual Esports, and of course you have the Virtual Esports brands which host MX5 and GT3 series every Thursday, as we've got Instant Round, and that is CMS with issues.
Yes, CMS round the penultimate corner, losing it. It's seemingly on their own steam as well. Taking it into the wall. It doesn't seem to be too much damage to them as we get a replay real quick of what happened. But yeah, probably very hot-headed of the whole ordeal with the Eastside Motorsports car. Maybe it is the Olympic that sends up the inside very unexpectedly, and yeah, they lose the rear end, can't really save it. Slams on the brakes into the grass and touches with the wall as well. So yeah, the 7 from Olympic 2 kind of caught Mark off guard there and sent the front nose of the BMW spinning round into the wall.
Yeah, a little bit offline, but as you said, like undoubtedly in that car, full course yellow. We have got full course yellow, and that's not linked to what's just happened to Grizzly Motorsports, but it might help them out. And they are in 8th position now. They've just lost, I think, 3 places and will have some damage. And the pace car is going to pick up. Didn't catch who the pace car is going to pick up there, Aaron. Did you pick that up?
I did not pick that up, no. I was trying to read through the blue flag rules, and it does state that, you know, if you are on the same class and, you know, you have a car that's a lap ahead of you, you need to move out the way there. So maybe Eastside would probably receive a penalty from one of the team managers there as well. But no, I'm not too sure who would pick up the lead there. Maybe it is the Western Racing cars. The LMDH has slowed up behind them, but of course no overtaking behind the yellow flags either. So I'm sure we'll find out eventually. As note, the LMDH does pass. Never mind, doesn't pass the Western Racing car.
I mean, it would make sense if it was JO Motorsports leading the way, wouldn't it? Like if it's an LMDH at the front. So I wonder if they're sort of telling the LMP2 to get a move on, because the drivers were allowed to push to the end of their lap. They were allowed to overtake other drivers to the end of the lap when the announcement was made to have a full course caution. And so and I think basically across the line the LMP2 was ahead, so I'm not sure what Clarson's waited for, or maybe Clarson is just the leader and that's who they've assigned. No. Okay, we've just been confirmed by the admins that the car 50 is being told to speed up and catch up to the back of the field, because they do want the JO Motorsports car to be the leader of the train. And of course, just a reminder of this process, the cars will get into file, then the classes will be divided up into LMDH, into LMP2 and GTD, then the pit lane will open, and then the classes will be again divisionized into LMDH, LMP2 and GTD before going back into green flag. This will probably take 20 minutes at least in order to sort out.
Yes, and as I mentioned earlier on as well, for the GTD category as well, the people that made the stop during that safety car or pushed it beyond it as well will probably be able to benefit from this as well, because they will have the benefit of pitting in a very, very slowed down nature, so they won't lose barely any positions whatsoever. So we could see whatever the kind of lead is now to stay that way if they all come into the pits, because if they come into the pits now, then surely they can make it to the end of the race with no issues whatsoever. So we could end up seeing the sim racing team staying in the lead as well, and all our drivers here today in GTD staying in that position than where they are now.
Yeah, so the drivers who need to pit again to get to the end of the race in the GTDs are off the SS Racing, Michael Garone currently in that car, P7. And then also, that might be it. I think everyone else pretty much pitted, even if they did pit under that original safety car. I think they pitted with about an hour of the race to go to get their pit stop done. I don't think anyone's going to risk it with the one stop, because we've had to wait so long for this second full course yellow. I think they all sorts of bailed out and just went for the 2-stop, apart from, like I said, off the SS Racing, who I think might be a beneficiary here. But the thing is, off the SS Racing, if this full course caution lasts long enough, they may not need to pit at all. I mean, even though they pitted with about an hour and 20 of the race remaining, they might still be able to get to the end of the race with the fuel that they've got on board, because they'll be using so little fuel under the safety car. So this will be tight for these guys.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's all going to start jumping and changing now with the order, maybe for, especially probably the LMP2 guys as well, with their pit strategy being kind of out the window with how small the fuel window is for them as well. So I should believe that they should all be coming to the pits and having a fairly easy strategy call to think of as well. As we see when the pit lane opens, we'll get the call from race control when that does happen, and then we can start sorting out the order in terms of the strategy, as well as the reordering of all the cars as well. So, yeah, I should imagine that the GTD might stay the same. I don't think that a lot of them would take the risk of staying out, because, I mean, yes, they could probably get into a higher position, but it may cost them to start fuel saving quite heavily at the end, as we see the leader of LMP2 spin out on the grass there, under full course yellow. So they're going to have to quickly get back onto track as soon as they can and not lose any time here. But this is not very good for them as they lose the lead to Albrecht Motorsports and Trading Paints Racing Team Black.
And now the stewards have got a decision to make. Do they give them the position back?
I don't think they should. I think they should keep that where it is, because that is a self-inflicted incident under a full course yellow. If that was an incident that was caused by someone else, then I'd agree to kind of give that position back and keep them in P1. But as it's self-inflicted, I think they have to bite the bullet on that one and admit fault and stay there in P3.
Well, GSE have probably been arguably the most dominant leaders of any of the classes. Certainly not in the first half of the race, to be fair. They were running in third place for much of the first half of the race, but in the second half they had a strong 20-second lead. And they had already made an off-track earlier on in the race, to be fair. For the most part, they've been excellent. And it's now Trading Paints Racing Team Black who are back to the lead. What a comeback from these guys. Remember, they were second place after the first restart, but immediately went off the circuit at turn 3. They dropped down to about 8th place, and they've just been coming back ever since. And now it's Jordan Eriksson, who got in that car about half an hour ago, in the lead of the LMP2 field. So it will be a super appreciative race win for these guys, and I honestly think that Eriksson's probably got the pace to hold on to this. Trading Paints, remember, championship leaders. They've got a lot of history, and interestingly, Albrecht as well are second place in the championship. So they will not be easy cars for GSC to overtake in the final 40 minutes of this race.
No, for sure, and I think it's going to spice up towards the end here. As you mentioned before, GSC Esports being fairly dominant towards this later stage in the race as well, and I'm sure that pace can start to come back to them towards the end as well. But as you mentioned, Trading Paints and Albrecht Motorsports, they're being our championship leaders, so they know their way around this car for sure, especially for this championship being round 5 as well. So yeah, I think we're shaping up for a good ending as well, because I believe we'll have roughly around about 30 minutes to go here after all this sorts itself out. So it's kind of like an IMSA sprint towards the very end of the race with no pit stops to go, because they should hopefully make all their pit stops during this safety car period. So yeah, I reckon it's going to be quite elbows out towards the last stages of the race here for these guys.
I just heard some kind of message about GTD cars, so I think it might be the GTD's coming into the pits on this lap. They'll stop in the pit lane and then wait for the rest of the field to move past, to get them to the rear of the field before the pit stops can properly kick off underway. I was just having a look actually, see if anyone's going to be under pressure when it comes to this stage, where what you really don't want right now is like a litre of fuel left and have to come into the pits, because that's going to mess up the whole system. I don't think anyone has got that risk. I think the LMP2s pitted about half an hour ago. The LMDHs pitted about 20 minutes ago. And the GTDs, pretty much all of them are fine. A lot of them don't even need any fuel to get to the end. They've got 40 minutes worth of fuel in anyway. So they should be all right on that case. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see any emergency pit stops. But yeah, I think I expect to see the GTDs this time round to come to a stop in the pit lane.
Yeah, I just think that at the end it's going to be quite aggressive, especially towards this final races. We've seen on the actual main race start itself, and then the safety car restart around about 3 to 4 laps in, when all the traffic starts to intertwine with each other. That's where the biggest incidents start to occur, as we saw a lot of these guys that have been retired from this race. That's where most of their retirements came from, these restarts and the start of the race as well. So it's not going to be plain sailing for these guys, as we see the GTDs now come into the pit lane to sort that order out for themselves. But yeah, it's definitely not going to be plain sailing for the start of this restart for sure. The first 2 laps are going to be more trying to find that position, find your feet after the restart, get your tyres into a good condition, and then it's all going to be about managing that traffic the best of your ability and trying to make too many silly mistakes at the very end, but also being aware that, you know, you've got your guys behind you that are trying to make the move on you for the final few stages that are the most precious time to do it.
We had a few chats to some drivers and some team managers earlier on in the race. If you want to jump in and have a chat with us in the Apex Racing TV Discord server, do check that. Do that. There's a link to that in the description below. And if you sit in the interview waiting area, we may well check you up, have a quick chat, and get a bit of insight from you guys for what is going on in your race for this event. Hopefully you're all enjoying the stream. I think we've got one more of these later on in the year as well that we're broadcasting, I think in October. It's certainly been a lot of fun, such an action-packed race with these safety cars. I mean, I think, Owen, like, I think the biggest sorts of difference maybe between sim racing and real-life motorsport, particularly on iRacing, is the fact that in sim racing, you almost know what's going to happen before the race starts. Because you can do 5,000 laps, you're not going to be surprised by the tyre management, for example. And because we don't have rain, you know that it's going to be a dry race. Because we don't have safety cars, you know that you just got to push, and you can plan out lap by lap your entire strategy for a 24-hour race potentially. I think these safety cars are like a big step in terms of matching the real life unpredictability of motorsports, which I think often we sort of neglect in sim racing.
Yeah, for sure. It's the most like real life endurance we can get in these league races as well, which is why I love leagues in terms of iRacing as well, because like you have the Majors 24, which is a huge and successful league that follows this same kind of, you know, idea with the safety cars as well, and it's brilliant that the virtual sports car challenge is implementing this as well, because it does implement that, as you said, real life factor, that the unpredictability of the race as well is really dividend as well. You know, because you could be leading by 30 seconds, and in like a special event, for example, that lead could be kept throughout the whole way without too many issues. But in a safety car, you never know when it's going to be lost, or you never know when that, you know, you're going to have to all start again from fresh, basically, which just, as you say, adds the real life factor into it and adds the unexpectation to it as well. And yeah, especially with like Daytona 24 in real life, you know, you see many times, especially this year with the LMP2s having to battle at the very, very end of the race, pretty much towards the line, which we don't get in iRacing. We get like minute finishes, and like here today, we could end up with a super, super close finish between all these, all three classes here today.
So the LMDHs and the LMP2s coming into the pits. Let's see who's going to come out on top. It is still JO Motorsports leading the way, 23.33 seconds, and they are comfortably ahead. But this is the fuel that will take them to the end of the race, and it's going to be Champion Motorsports in second place, Grizzly Motorsports in third position. I don't think there's been a change there. I'm seeing Michael Hopkins with quite a quick pit stop there. I think Michael Hopkins for Twisty Bits Racing may have just gained a few places. And crucially, Albrecht Motorsport lead the way. In LMP2, it's a longer pit stop similarly for Training Paints Team Black. They took 28 seconds stationary. Compare that to Albrecht at 25 and Twisty Bits 22. Training Paints Racing Team Black, after working so hard to get back to the lead, they've dropped back down to third position.
Yeah, indeed. It's going to be this kind of thing of how much fuel do they need to get to the end of the race. And it seems like Albrecht Motorsports and Twisty Bit Racing as well kind of put that to perfection, doing similar amounts of stationary time in the pits as well. Maybe Training Paints overfueled just a little bit, or maybe they think they have the upper hand with the race going one lap extra as well. But as we see, Carl Binney here from Maya Speed Performance being the de facto safety car for this full Coachella period. And yeah, I think we still have a little bit more sorting out to do here. So yeah, we won't get underway until another around about 5-10 minutes or so. But yeah, as you say, the strategy calls are very interesting here so far. I believe that this race will still shape out to be pretty aggressive towards this end. And I'm sure Jordan Eriksson will have that kind of mindset of he needs to get back to that front position. And yeah, it's going to be quite interesting to see what happens towards the end with Jordan taking possibly extra fuel, or maybe the two in front under fueling, as we see Money House Racing Red drop it at turn 2. It's a really interesting place to lose it under full course yellow there. Maybe it's a case of fresh tyres in that car as well with a heavy load of fuel, and just the car over rotating and snapping. on Nolan Hodgson there. But yes, a really big impact with the wall, and that doesn't seem to be like it's going to be a fairly successful drive back to the pits and the long old repair time for them. As they come out of the pits then, fairly clean space in front of them.
It
It's going to be a
off the
loop.
circuit a while. Oh, just cold tyres, isn't it?
I mean, cold tyres are usually fairly grippy on this car. It's usually quite the opposite. It usually tends to oversteer rather than understeer. So that's, yeah, I mean, unless we can get an onboard of what actually happened there, maybe it was a steering issue or something, but that's interesting how he's managed to lose it on turn 2 like that. Either way, they seem to be pretty much out of the race completely at this point, because there's no way they can kind of gain any positions from that end. As you see the wave bias happening on the left-hand side of the track here. But yeah, shame for Nolan there to have that kind of incident at this point in the race with so little time to go in terms of this 2 hour and 40-minute race. 30 minutes to go here. So yeah, they seem to be completely out of it so far.
So,
Pace, yeah.
All the 151 is the pace car. Apparently that is the leader in GTD, Marco Pereira. None of the GTDs came into the pits. I say that. Didn't any of the GTDs come into the pits. We are now on for the GTDs. Lap 84. Oh, we had a few of them to be fair. So yeah, off in the S's Racing, who, remember, came in under the first caution. They've come in now under the second caution. I thought they might go for it and try to get to the end of the race, but in hindsight, I think it was the right decision. I think they would have been about 10 minutes short on fuel if they tried to go to the end. Grizzly Motorsports 9 also came into the pits, and also Trading Paints Team Red, Nicholas Johnston in that car, they also came into the pits. Also actually, in the GTDs, I think that was about it. Oh man, what's going on with Money House? That's another one. I think there was the LMDH off before, and now it's Alexandra Bratzers, who I feel like has already had a problem at that corner off the circuit. And these are, I mean, that's now 3 mistakes we've seen now, and with drivers coming back, trying to make up time.
Yeah, as you see, coming into Moss corner, doesn't seem to leave a bit in the grass early on, just over-rotates the rear end, though understeers off, taking too much speed on the first part of Moss corner there at turn 5, goes really, really deep into the wall there, so that might have been a tyre barrier on the right-hand side there for them, as he just, yeah, completely lost it on the gravel and goes off into the tyre barrier on the left-hand side. And doesn't seem to be too much damage. Tyre walls seem to be very forgiving here on iRacing so far, so they seem to be continuing with little to no damage than what they had before, but still, it's just a very strange instance happening on this full course yellow. It's just most of the action's happening on most of the full course yellows, with I think there's 3 cars now going off in one safety car.
Yeah, it's surprising me because the first one I feel like we were all right, and then it's just been this one that has been more problematic. Seriously, that we'll get another full course caution to the end, otherwise we'd most likely end under full course caution, which I don't think anyone wants. So this should be a straight race from this. No more pit stops to be made for anyone. It's still Marco Pereira out in lead. A reminder that we do expect to see the GTDs to have to come into the pits in a lap or two's time, probably this lap, in order to let all the prototypes pass. And at that point, then the field might be in a position to be able to get back underway, and then I guess the LMDHs will also have to get ahead of the LMP2 as well. So expect the racing to commence again in about 5 minutes time for these drivers. Once again, big thanks to Virtual, the sponsor for this series. And yeah, Virtual got a few esports leagues being hosted, as well as their rig hire, and of course their platform as well to assist with driving tuition. And yeah, they've got their Mazda MX-5 Cup and GT3 series that run every Thursday. And like I said it before, if you visit VR7UAL esports.gg racing, then you should be good to find that. So once again, VR7UAL esports.gg, virtualesports.gg. And do check them out for those leagues in the MX-5 and the GT3s, along with their beginner driver education course and their simulator rentals, whether that be motorsport or golf. I want to try a golf simulator. I don't even play golf anyway, maybe that would be a better start, but I want to simulate it for some sort of reason.
Yeah, as we see the LMP2s coming to the pits now as well to sort out their order as well. And yeah, I agree. Golf simulators sound awesome because I play a lot of golf in VR, and I'd love to do some golf simulator one day. So maybe I'll try out some virtual golf simulators. Maybe I'll fly over to over there and try one out for myself. But yeah, as we see, LMP2s line up on the end of pit road here to let the LMDHs and GT3s come through, and then they can go pretty much as soon as the LMDHs go through. Yeah, as we see now, Mark Scherschel for Albrecht Motorsports coming back onto track now, and hopefully this should sort out the order for most of the classes here. But I think the GT3s have to make one more kind of stop, then let the LMDHs come through, and then we'll be able to get underway here. So this lap, the GT3 should be able to come into the pits, let both LMDH and LMP2 come through, then do one final lap, and then we should be able to go racing here for, hopefully, the final full Courcello for around about 25 minutes left to go.
And big thanks to the admins for doing these full course cautions, because it takes a lot of people to do. Like I used to be involved in a league which did the same, and you need 3 or 4 people in order to make this work. And of course, if someone does something wrong, then it just causes such mayhem where you're thinking, well, how can we get this person back into position? Of course, these guys have the slight freedom because it's not actually a safety car out there. It's just very much being coordinated by the admins with the drivers, doing their own thing out on circuit and being assigned a leader and such, and just instructions being told through them. But it does take a lot of effort. It's not automated by any means. You can't really do that when it comes to multi-class racing, because it means that some drivers will lose a lap and some drivers will gain a lap, and it doesn't quite work. And so this is the only way to do it, and the guys in VSCA have done a brilliant job of this. As we see the GTDs come into the pits, and we might only be 1 lap away from starting. I think it was maybe 2 laps after the GTDs pitted last time. We'll see what the gaps are like, but we might be a minute away from kicking off what will be about a 23-24 minute sprint.
Yeah, indeed. As I said before, it's going to be pretty interesting to see pretty much the final sprint towards the end as well, with all the leaders all bunched up together. And this is what I was saying with the safety cars, bringing the unpredictability into these races as well. You know, you had JO Motorsports with pretty much a 20-second lead towards halfway through this race, and now all the way down to pretty much nothing for this restart. So, yeah, if I was Thomas Fisher right behind in the CMS Racing Pro car, I'd be right up the rear end of Jonathan Moschalem as well, to make sure that I get the best launch possible and to make this restart the best I can possibly make it as well. And doing a similar move to what JO Motorsports did to the leaders at the very early on, you know, sending it up the inside of Moss Corner as well can be really, really crucial as well, especially during the traffic phases as well. So yeah, if I was Thomas behind, I'd be right at the rear end and really using all of the battery that I could to try and get him down on the Andretti straight as well, and making sure that I had the best possible launch I could to stop JO Motorsports from crawling away with it, as is got to be said. What they did at the very start of the race and after the second full Courcello as well, they've just been very, very dominant in this LMDH class so far. And yeah, maybe CMS Racing or maybe even Gritty Motorsports can stop that from happening.
Now, I think I just heard a message on the 10i saying either restart at the end of this lap or no restarts at the end of this lap. I think it was the former. So I think we are about to get underway because everything's prepped. You can see the track map, everyone's nicely lined up. We'll see if the LMP2s leave a bit of a gap. We saw them leave about a 15-second gap last time to the LMDHs. There wasn't the same gap left to the GTDs, interestingly. But it seems like this time they are going to be a bit more bunched up. And they will pretty much all launch at the same time. Great to see so many LMDHs out there, but only 3 on the lead lap. The rest are still continuing, apart from Money Out, who recently crashed in World of Sim Racing. But these 3, any of them, could still take this race victory. JO Motorsports have led for so much of this race. It would be disappointing if they couldn't consolidate it, but we are about to find out if they are going to be able to. 23 minutes remaining here at Mosport, as Jonathan Moschalem who leads us away. Ahead of CMS Racing, Mark Scherschel still leading the way, but look at that, Trading Paints have already got up to second place. A fantastic mugging there on Twisty Bits Racing, and that could be a race-defining move to get up into second place already.
Yeah, indeed. Fantastic start for Jordan Eriksson there to pretty much take it as soon as it went green there into turn 1 there as well, as Mark is under superior pressure from Jordan behind. As we said before, he's going to be very angry in that Trading Paints car for that pit stop area as well, trying to get back into the back, or in... Oh, I can't even get my words right as he's going down the inside of Moss corner. Tries to think better of it, backs out at the very end of the corner as well. But yeah, now down to the Andretti straight to see if we can try and find some momentum. Probably a little bit too far away to make a move this early on, but the DHs are not too far in front as we see Jonathan being under pressure from CMS Racing Pro. This is what I meant by Thomas having the pressure, trying to pressure Jonathan in front to try and get that place as quick as you can. So hopefully you can try and keep that momentum right on the rear end of that JM Motorsports car to try and make a move where possible, hopefully into the turn 5 of Moss corner as well, because that is the crucial moment and the slowest part of the track here for the MDHs to try and make a move as safely as they can, but the rest of it being too quick, trying to turn it too quick, as well as we see, talking about too quick, right on the rear end of JM Motorsports cars, Thomas Fisher, bring it over to the right hand side, then back over to the left, and then trying to really get the best exit he can out of turn 3 here. Gets a really good exit compared to JM Motorsports there. It's probably a bit too far away, only a 10th back. Maybe can make it up the inside as he tries to launch it. Thinks about it, lifts at this point as well, and yeah, tries to keep a nice stable exit for Andretti straight here as well. But yeah, if I was Thomas, I would have tried to send it there because we know how quick the JM Motorsports car can be. And yeah, it seems like they've got a 4.5 tenths gap from 1/10, as it was before at Moss Corner, to try and evade from the CMS Racing Pro car.
Not only a race win at stake for Champion Motorsport, but potentially the championship lead as well. They came into this round 90 points behind, or 89 points behind, apologies. And well, if they could take this with the championship leaders being so far down the order, Maya Sim Speed only in 8th position out of 9 cars in this race at the moment, there could well be a change at the top of the standings. So big stuff for Champion Motorsports to make that move. Marco Pereira still holding on for World of Sim Racing Team. It will not be easy to overtake. I know we've seen a lot of overtakes tonight, but this is not an easy to overtake circuit. And especially in these GTDs, in normal play, it is very tricky to do so. When it comes to traffic though, anything is possible. But Kinetic Racing, who went on a slightly alternative strategy earlier on, didn't seem to necessarily have the race-winning pace early on. But Aidan Campbell has been absolutely fantastic as the race has progressed. Whoa. As the leaders are nose to tail. And this is another class where it might be tricky to overtake, but Trading Paints are doing absolutely everything possible to do so. And that's a decent launch. We might well see an attempt into the S's.
Yeah, it's great to see Jordan Eriksson there right on the rear end, showing really great skill, in fact, here, you know, on the rear end of the Albert Motorsports car. As we see a penalty, a stop and hold penalty for a full course yellow wave by violation on the screen there, as we see side by side Jordan Eriksson round the outside at the final section on the Albert Motorsports car. Gets the move done. A fantastic move there by Jordan Eriksson. As I was about to say, fantastic bravery to stay on the rear end of that Albert Motorsports car for so long as he gives the flashes there. Oh, and we cut to Michael Garone for on the S's racing there, stuck pretty much dead still on the exit onto the Andretti straight there. So all kicking off here on lap 103 there for the guys. But yeah, Jordan Eriksson with a fantastic move on the last sector there to pull almost a second away from Albert Motorsports. So not taking any prisoners with him and just shooting off right into the distance.
He was given a lot to do, Jordan Eriksson, in order to win this race, and he's been able to do it all in a space of about 5 minutes. To go from 3rd to 1st the way that he has done is super impressive, and it would be another race win for Trading Paints Racing Team Black, and one with a lot of adversity from their spin off the restart, and then of course losing the lead under the safety car, as Twisty Bits have got up into 2nd place. Albrecht Motorsport are falling back. It's not looking good for them at the moment, and now they've got GSC, who remember were leading before spinning under the safety car. They're running in 4th right now, and they will be needing to get past if they've got any hope of winning this race.
Yeah, it's a shame to see them obviously lose out that way, as we see the MVHs come through to the traffic section. Now it's going to be the most tense part of the race here, with 20 minutes to go, a final sprint to the line with yeah, traffic coming through. Oh, Thomas not being brave enough there on the Lamborghini there at Moss Corner. If I was him, I would have really launched on the inside to try and take that position. and get on the back of J Motorsports, but doesn't do it, doesn't feel confident enough to, and loses out a lot of time to J Motorsports there. So that could be kind of race defining there at the very end with a 1.5 second difference now between the two. As it's very close between the GT3 there, didn't really see him in his mirrors very well. As a stop and hold penalty for car number 119 there as well for a wave by violation once again as well by race control there, as we see up on the screen now for the car 119. But yeah, this battle for LMDH really starting to shape up with the traffic, and yeah, shame for Thomas there to not be brave enough to send through Moss Corner, but I can completely understand it being in this position as well. Doesn't actually matter anymore though, because he's right on the rear end again of the Moss car. Very, very close to the AMG, and I was still about being brave, very brave to keep the throttle in and trust and say he's going to dive out of the way there. Now forward 5 tenths separates the two leaders here. Surely Thomas has a move here for the BMW going down the inside, does so without too many issues here. Gap is still staying around 6 tenths. Obviously, JM Motorsports having the better line through Moss Corner there, goes to around 7 tenths now with a better exit from Thomas Fisher. Maybe we can have a bit of a run here for Andretti Straight. And yeah, very, very great battle so far, with that battle still, well, still alive. You know, it looked pretty much over on the last lap, but now it's very much alive for this lap. This time by only 7 tenths separating the two of them. A little bit of traffic there for CMS Racing Pro to deal with, but not too much of an issue for them. Losing out a little bit of time, but nothing too unusual there as we come through a second wave of traffic here for our leaders in GTD. Let's see how much time they start to lose here throughout this traffic run. Doesn't seem like J Motorsports going to be too held up, but CMS Racing gets held up at turn 1, a crucial spot there for them. Loses them around about 4 tenths of a second there to JM Motorsports at the front. So yeah, this battle is really starting to shape out with this traffic.
Yeah, it's going to be partially down to fortune whether CMS really get a good run. They're going to need a helping hand as they're off the circuit, and they've tipped a wheel onto the grass. They spin back. The GTD does a good job at avoiding. Fortunately, they don't swing completely the other way, and Grizzly Motorsports move ahead. And we've got another spinner in the background as well, who was stationary. I'm not seeing anyone dropping down, so it must have been a back marker, but someone else was spinning at turn 3. But huge disappointment there for CMS, and that's a very common mistake here at Mosport.
Yeah, indeed. Just getting a little bit too... Oh, as we see, GSE.
And that was
into the wall.
And Vision
1. Yeah.
So and Sapphire up to 3rd. Sapphire got up to 3rd in all of that. So
I can only assume that was a move made by Vision 1 at turn 3 that kind of went a bit wrong with the angle that both of them kind of spat off. I believe that it was a move from Vision down the inside. If we can get a replay, then we can see it in more detail as well. But yeah, just send up the inside. Speaking of, here it is. Let's see Vision 1 coming through. No, it must have been a traffic-related incident, or separate traffic-related instance here. You see on the rear of the Lamborghini there. Yeah, it's gone for me. I can't really see it from that angle. But yeah, just lose it on the grass. I'm throwing off into the left-hand side. Didn't really see how GSE made it to the wall. As we see here, they're coming through now. GSE on the rear end of an MP2. From the left-hand side.
Oh, unlucky.
Oh. Yeah, that's unfortunate for them. Straight into the wall. That's got to be damaged surely on the front end of that LMP2 there.
And I think maybe all brakes may have got damaged as well, because they're going quite slowly. I mean, they were going a little bit slowly before. Mark Scherschel really struggling in 4th position. But he was the one who made contact initially and then made secondary contact. So he is, well, on that last lap, he lost 3 seconds to the cars ahead. So Sapphire Simsport, who had that mare, I think, at Moss Corner earlier on.
Yeah, it was.
In 3rd place, and well, they might even be able to put pressure on Twisty Bits Racing. Really quick drive right now from Thomas Fisher. I must say, I think Jordan Erickson's looking really good out in the lead. I mean, the way that he was able to storm up to the lead from 3rd place on the restart makes him very tricky to beat in this race. But for 2nd, it could be either of these 2 drivers.
Yeah, and speaking of Jordan Erickson's time as well, his best lap time, I believe this was his, but I could be wrong. But either way, that team is super strong with a 1:08.19 best lap for them, as nose to tail for 2nd and 3rd place. There we have with Twisty Bits and Sapphire Simsporters there as well. But yeah, around about 5 tenths is the quickest lap time compared to any other LMP2 out there for Jordan Erickson's car. So very quick car for them. So far as a 3 wide, oh my god, this is going to be very, very close. As we see Sapphire Simsport still behind Twisty Bits Racing. They're coming to turn 3. Can't really make a move too much with the Fisher GT3 there going around the inside of turn 3. There's still no tower with Sapphire Simsport with Twisty Bits Racing. They're going to turn 5 at Moss Corner. Is a move going to be made here? It's quite possible. They're very, very close. Nose to tail still. thinks better of it, just stays behind for now and tries to get the run down through the adjusting straight. But yeah, two differing opinions about what they want us to do through traffic at turn 2 there. One going to the inside, one going to the outside, and I was sure that one of them was going to end up in the grass, but they both able to keep their car on track and yeah, keep a very clean and comfortable ride through traffic so far.
Yeah, that was a miracle through turn 2 that they were able to save that one. Yeah, I thought something may have popped up on our instant viewer, but I think a few incidents being reported. Here we go, Sapphire are passed. Great stuff. Twisty Bits got held up through the penultimate corner behind the car number 9, and Sapphire anticipated that, went offline, and now there's contact as well. The car number 9 turning in a bit for turn 2, and I think Twisty Bits may have got a bit of door damage on that occasion. But I think that's the least of their worries, because Sapphire up into second place, 6 seconds to catch the leaders. I think that's a bit too far with 12 minutes to go. But a fantastic recovery for a team who weren't even looking like they were going to finish in the top 5 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, for sure. Again, this full Coachella can really throw the instance around. And speaking of instance, we have car number 17 with a one lap stop and hold penalty. So yeah, car 17, Maggie Motorsports. Yeah, that's the second of the day, I'm pretty sure. I remember them having
you're right.
a penalty. Yeah. So 2 car contacts today for them too. Well, 2 instances today with a first wave by violation for them as well. So shame for them, but they seem to be out of it.
We'll change
well.
the second.
See, yeah, Taylor Parsons as well. With Screeching Motorsports going up into second place as well with Kinetic Racing. That battle is still very much alive, but P1 has kind of romped off into the distance with 3 seconds to catch there for them. But it seems like they're still battling. It's a kind of miscommunication between the two of them. Taylor Parsons in Screeching Motorsports and Kinetic Racing both crash. Come up to the final.
And Kinetic with big damage.
Yeah. Big damage on the Kinetic Racing car. It seems like Taylor lost it a little bit on the exit. Aidan Campbell saw his opportunity to kind of fire through on the left-hand side of the car there, and the AMG not really responding to it very well, and they both make contact and into the
and Screeching Moose, I think, have had a second instant, and that's with Sapphire from second place.
Wow.
Sapphire, who worked so hard to get to second place, and Tyler Parsons, I was just about to say how finally their race was coming back to the fore after, frankly, a disappointing recent hour for them. And I think, they've just been unlucky. Just a car right in the middle of the circuit. Fortunately, they don't have too much damage there, but really disappointing there for Sapphire, because Thomas Fisher was a man on a mission, but he's pushed it too hard there.
I have bad news as well. Westset Racing with another stop and hold 1 lap penalty. So yeah, unfortunately for them guys, their race is going from bad to worse to worse to worse
to worse to worse to worse to worse.
Yeah, unfortunately for them, another stop and hold penalty for them, but they are 1 lap down so far, so it won't affect the order too much, but just an update on them guys as well. But yeah, this Battlefront V2 is now picked up once again with Twisty Bits Racing and Albert Motorsport now going at it as well, with Sapphire Sinsport now dropping down to 6th place, so they are very much out of contention for any big haul of points there for sure, but still a good haul of points nonetheless for 6th place indeed. But this battle is really shaping up with just under 10 minutes to go here at Mosport for the Virtual Sports Car Challenge at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park as well. So yeah, it seems like Albert Motorsports is slowing down just a touch here. Lost quite a bit of time on this lap alone to Twisted Bits Racing, so we'll see where that battle kind of shapes up between them. But as you can see on the track map, you know, it kind of has a lot of clean air in front of them so far. So yeah, I don't think there's going to be a lot of traffic management to do with here now until another few laps to go. But yeah, that battle is really starting to shape up between these two LMP2s.
So Mad Sim Racing back up into second place. A decent amounts happening in these GTT categories since the restart. World of Sim Racing being so far clear. I mean, they were so close. I mean, it looked like it was going to be an absolute nose-to-tail finish in the top 10, really, with the GTTs. And now World of Sim Racing and Mad Sim Racing absolutely cruising along in the top 2 positions. Quite a surprise there. I think a lot of them have had issues. The fact that Off the S's are up in 7th place despite their spin straight after the caution. It demonstrates just how much action has occurred in this class in the last 15 minutes or so. Screeching Moose still not with a whole lot of damage on the car, I believe. There they are in the Mercedes in the background. On that last lap, they were able to gain by 0.6 of a second on Manuel Meyer in Fisher Motorsport Porsche. Now, obviously, that can sometimes be down to traffic, so you can't read too much into that. But I think 3rd, 4th and 5th could all be very close by the end of this race. in 8 minutes' time.
Yeah, for sure. We know how much speed and pace Taylor has in that car as well, regardless of what had happened to Dimmerton as well. But yeah, they're definitely trying to get on the move and try and at least get a podium place out of this, which is entirely possible as well. There's still a bit more traffic management to deal with, and Taylor has some decent pace in that car as well. So maybe that can close down fairly quickly to a nice little battle for the podium at the very end of Grizzly Motorsports number 9. Chasing down Fisher Motorsports Porsche, who is in 3rd place right now with the LMDH coming through there. Oh, a little bit of a half move there from CMS. Well, actually, no, that's not CMS. That's Fisher Motors. Well, no, it probably was CMS. My bad. And just catch that gap ever so closer to Grizzly Motorsports Reese there. On about 3/10 of a second now separates them two. So I both really starting to shape up for the final place in the podium spot. As we see Screeching Moose Motorsports loving that little altercation with the traffic there and getting ever so closer.
Yeah, that's exactly what they need to bring themselves into a chance. Here we go.
This is
Into
quick.
Turn 3, that will be a easy cover off for the 3rd place man. But Davis taking on alternative line just has to be a bit patient on the throttle. Not quite as much grip as what he was hoping for. But of course the main overtaking spot will be into the S's. Not a big braking area, but if you can get alongside, it's very tricky to cover off both ways. The outside line is very powerful, but really nice driving there from Fisher Motorsports Porsche, and they'll be able to open that gap back up to half a second.
Yeah, defensive maneuvers around this track are key as well. You can really easily defend the inside because the outside in GTD, in fact any car here really is hard to manage apart from the last sector where we've seen, especially Jordan Eriksson made that wonderful move for, I believe it was 1st place actually, around the outside of this corner in particular, as we see a little bit of LMDH traffic not do Fisher Motorsports Porsche any good there, and allows Nicholas in Grizzly Motorsports 9 car to get right back on the rear end of that Porsche, losing a little bit on the final corner, but yeah, still very much on the rear end of the Porsche Fisher Motorsports there. But yeah, this battle is starting to shape up towards the end. Only 5 minutes to go, so maybe some moves can be made at the very end with a bit more aggression thrown in, with a little less time to make mistakes. So yeah, let's see if Grizzly Motorsports is going to turn up the heat a little bit here on the final stages.
And yeah, Screeching Moose now within 1 second of those drivers. And then got Dangler Performance a little bit further back. And only the top 7 now on the lead lap. Of course, Kinetic, after that collision, having to return to the pits. They're now 3 laps down with the damage that we saw on that car. Almost certainly going to be the end of their day. No fast repairs, of course, in this series. And the drivers have felt that, undoubtedly. I think we'd have a fair few more drivers out there, but at the same time, I think the chaos would have just ensued because drivers would have been willing to take that many more risks. But this man hasn't really had to take too many risks. JO Motorsports have been absolutely superb. They didn't take pole position, but that feels like a long time ago because they have been pretty much leading from the get-go. And now, for over 5 seconds clear, Jonathan Oshalem has had real no setbacks. Led going into the pit stops, led after the pit stops. Hasn't had any close moments with traffic from what we've seen. And yeah, will be a very satisfying victory for a team who are yet to win a race this season.
Yeah, and what a race to win it as well, because they've just been absolutely dominant from the word go, really. Obviously, with the fantastic move again. I'll talk about it again from Seamus coming through into Moss corner. Very aggressive, very brave and beautiful into the lead. And since that point, they've just led ever since. Been very comfortable in the lead, managing traffic fairly well as well. Haven't been caught up in any instance whatsoever, really. And yeah, shame for CMS Racing Peru. Had the opportunity to take the lead at the very early start of the restart. But yeah, kind of backed out of it. Chose the safer option, which did cost them in the end. And having that little half spin around turn 3 didn't help their chances of a P2 either as well. As we see MV Skin Lab and Moneyhouse Racing Red switch positions. That was on my little standings there. But yeah, they seem to be still racing along, even though being 13 laps down, as we mentioned before. The points, are huge. So still staying in the race can make a big difference between your championship standings for sure.
So the lead fight seemingly pretty much sorted because Training Paint's team Black now 9 seconds ahead. GSC are coming back a bit, aren't they, on twisty bits? But
Just slightly, yeah.
it's not. Yeah, that last lap it was a second. And they really do rattle through the laps around this circuit. Keeps up that, it'll be nose to tail going through the final corner. So Michael Hopkins, if he's got a little bit more pace, he doesn't need a whole lot more, but if he's got a little bit more, that'd be very useful. Vision 1 Motorsports under increasing pressure from Sapphire, Simsport, Delta. These guys were second faster on that last lap, and now they've got a bit of traffic to deal with as well. For Sapphire, with that mistake a few laps ago through turn 2, they got back up to second place. But right now they would take a top 5, which frankly, before the second caution, I think they would have taken a top 5. But they would take it even more now. Damien Benke with a little bit of damage on the front of that car won't be helping them.
Nah, for sure. And again, 2 minutes to go here. So this seems to be one of our closest battles on track for now, in terms of position-wise as well on the lead lap. So yeah, good finishing battle to end on as well, with Sapphire Sport, as you mentioned, having a bit of a rollercoaster ride throughout this race. And speaking of roller coasters, through Moss Corner as well, pretty much a roller coaster in itself, really. Everyone kind of going up and down, side to side, and sometimes a bit out of the seat, out of the track as well. But yeah, it's been a pretty good race here today, and shown some great displays of driving, as we see. No. Oh no, Westset Racing again off. Well, pretty much on the exit at Moss Corner, as I was mentioning before as well. Now 3 laps down, not having the greatest races. Is that Thomas back in the car? I'm pretty sure it is, no? Yeah, Tommaso is back in the car.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, Tommaso was leading half an hour into this race. Yeah, I didn't need to say too much. It's gone badly since for them. They'll still get some points, which is more than some teams out there at least. So thanks to them for continuing, and considering the one hits that they had into turn 3, I'm surprised that car only required a couple of laps of repairs. Adam Shipton is under huge pressure now for Grizzly Motorsports. It looks like, at least on my screen, he's under huge pressure from Thomas Fisher for P2 in the LMDHs. I think this gap was a bit sizable a few moments ago, but he's just lost 2.5 seconds on that last lap, and this is coming ever so close now for second position. Any overtake possible for the CMS driver. They're coming up to a P2 just ahead, and he needs to position his car absolutely perfectly right now, does Adam, in order not to get boxed in. He's going to be able to make his way past here. But, yeah, Champion Motorsports would be delighted with a second position. Second place in the championship, remember, they will probably be the championship leaders after this round, whether or not they make this move on the car ahead. But an extra 20 points would be much appreciated.
Yeah, indeed. Good battle to shape up the end here as well, with yeah, very, very close, only 3 temps separating them. And speaking of battles, Screeching Motorsport and Moose Motorsports with Fisher Motorsports Porsche as well. Round outside goes Taylor Parsons, up into 3rd place.
And the checker flag is out. That one will count, but they're going to try and send it back. But now there's contact. And that is Fisher Motorsports round. Will they lose any more places? The checker flag is out for our race leader, but we've got to wait to see what happens to Manuel Meyer first. He can only lose 1 more place, but that is a huge disappointment on the final corner of the race.
Wow.
For Fisher Motorsports to lose out the way they did. World of Sim Racing in the GTDs, they will win out. Our LMDH winner has already crossed the line. JO Motorsports, the first win in the VSCA Championship. And in the P2s, we've still got this man to cross the line. He's got a victory lap for Trading Paints Racing Team Black, the team who were down as low as 8th place an hour into the event. And they are going to take a fairly comfortable race win in the end. Well, it'll be by a lap, which isn't very reflective of really what the race was like. But Jordan Eriksson for Trading Paints Racing Team Black, they win out in the LMP2 category. Yeah, Marco Pereira has already crossed the line for World of Sim Racing. World of Sim Racing team win in the GTD category. Well, that all kicked off massively at the end. Huge disappointment for Fisher Motorsports, and they did lose out off the SS Racing, so they finished last out of the drivers who finished on the lead lap in the end, Owen.
Yeah, I mean, very aggressive maneuvers at the very end. They saved the aggression for literally the last corner, which was pretty interesting. I mean, it was a move that was on for the BMW there, trying to find its way down the inside, but I'm sure the Fisher Motorsport will be definitely protesting that one, because I know I would do as well. As we see here, a post-race penalty of 30 seconds for Grizzly Motorsports. The number 7 LMDH car of Grizzly Motorsports receives a 30-second time penalty at the very end for a car contact. So, yeah, unfortunate for those guys, who were actually P2 in the end. So they take a 30-second,
P4,
30-second
I believe.
P4.
Unless, which Grizzly Motorsport one was it? They're number 9.
Number 7.
Number 7. Sorry.
Yeah, so they lose out to CMS Racing Pro in the end.
Yeah. Well, I
Wow.
wonder what they got that for.
Well, it says here it was a incident responsibility, so I can only imagine that was a car contact with someone, as we see Jonathan or Charlem very deservingly doing donuts over the checker flag, with great burnouts that they are as well, because, yeah, just as good as burnouts as the race they made today. From start to finish, just leading for the whole entire thing, and, yeah, incredibly dominant victory for those guys today, so they can take the win, glorifying it, and, yeah, take it towards the next round and hopefully carry that momentum forward, as we see a replay here of what happened to Thomas Fisher, the CMS Racing Pro car.
Unfortunately, I can't see this one. But I think as long as the viewers can see it, then that's all good. Can you see it?
I can see it. I
Oh, good.
believe, yeah, I think it was the Grizzly Motorsport. Yeah, I think it was the Grizzly Motorsport car that took the grass on the left-hand side, which forced the Lamborghini off into the gravel on the right. I'm fairly sure. Yeah, so that was the 30-second time penalty for them there. Yeah, what a shame to have a 30-second penalty for that incident at the very end. I mean, that's multi-class for you. Things that happened, and that basic consequence, but they still stay in third. And what lovely donuts here from Jonathan. You must have been practicing this while doing laps as well. They must have been so confident about their race pace. They thought, let's practice some donuts, and rightly so. What a fantastic victory here today from JR Motorsports. And yeah, left, as I said, left from start to finish with not really a foot stepped wrong at all. Unfortunately, didn't take the virtual pole position, but yeah, here is your standings at the very end with an engine blow up to finalize it all. JR Motorsports with a win overall, with Grizzly Motorsports actually finishing in P3 after the 30-second post-race penalty. CMS Racing Pro taking second place after that post-race penalty. Grizzly Motorsports 8 finishing in P4, followed by MV Skimlab in P5. Moneyhouse Racing Red with that unfortunate incident after the safety car, or during the safety car in P6. Maya Sims 2 Performance P7. Race for Cat Motorsport P8, and World of Sim Racing Team finishing P9, who crashed out at the very beginning of the race. Moving on to the LMP2 category here today, we have Trading Plains Racing Team Black with a phenomenal victory after the end there, with yeah, pretty much very close to not finishing anywhere near the podiums after their instance, but yeah, came out to finish P1. Crispits Racing in P2, GSE Esports finishing P3 after a very rollercoaster ride for them today, same as Albrecht Motorsports in P4. Vision 1 Motorsports 13 P5, Sapphire in P6, BRG Sport P7, Vision 1 Motorsports 11 P8, Westset Racing after a hectic race for them guys today in P9, Digit Spirit DS Racing in P10, Fisher Motorsports Alara in P11, Aggie Motorsports in P12, and Mad Sim Racing finishing in P13 of LMP2. And moving into the GTD category for today's virtual Sports Car Challenge at Mosport, World of Sim Racing Team with a very good victory in P1 today, followed by Mad Sim Racing Team, a close challenge in P2 there. Very silent today was Mad Sim Racing Team, but a very good P2 nonetheless. Switching Miss Motorsports with a, well, crucial move at the end there for P3, with Grizzly Motorsports finishing in P4, Danger Performance in P5, off in the S's Racing in P6, Fisher Motorsports with an unfortunate end to their race at the final corner in P7, Trading Plains Racing Team Red P8, Talk Freak Racing in P9, Kinetic Racing P10, Eastside Motorsports followed by HAC Racing, Nerdherd Racing, CMSRacing.com, Fisher Motorsports Eagle, Moneyhouse Racing Black, Olympus Esports Lambda, and Full Sem Racing finishing in P18, with Trading Plains Racing Team Blue in P19, HAC Racing in P20, Firestorm Motorsport in P21, and Real Pixel Motorsport finishing out your GTD category in P22. Wow, Sam, what a fantastic race here today from everyone involved. And do you have anyone that you want to talk to after this fantastic race?
I think I am going to drag up. It's always so tricky. It's the trickiest part of the race. I think I'm going to drag up Marco Pereira, who joins us now in the commentary box. Marco, congratulations. That is, yeah, a really satisfying result for you guys. How was it out there for you? Because it seems pretty crazy racing out there.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good afternoon. So I don't understand either what happened in our race, because we have some shenanigans before the first pace car, and after that my teammate Andres, shout out to him, was overtaking a car per lap or something like, not a car per lap, but something like that, because cars ahead were struggling with traffic and the track. So in the end, after our second stop, the pace car came out again, and we kept the lead, and we did it like that.
Yeah, it seemed like a little bit of an anticlimax actually at the front of the field in that final stint, because, like I think you may have alluded to, a lot of people seem to fall off. How did you guys avoid instance with the prototype cars? Was there a strategy that you guys had in order to avoid having any instance?
Not a special strategy. Just after the two right-hander slow corner, before the big straight, we kept to the in the line of the track to let them think clear where we are gonna be in the straights, and that's it. Because the straights here are very short and have a corner right after, so we have to do a lot of change of side of track, because the turns were right, left, right, and so on. And we went straight on the tracks, and the worst line for us, but we kept our nose clean.
Yeah, that was definitely the wise thing to do out there. In the championship, you guys headed into this round in 9th place. I mean, you'll be up to, I think, 6th after this. You might even be higher than that. Do you think the championship's possible? I mean, we're only halfway through the season, and with this performance, do you think you could potentially go all the way this season?
It would be difficult, but I think so, because I trust in my teammates that they finish second or third in Long Beach or something like that, and that's also a very difficult track, and we could do something special. Not quite special, but yeah, something good.
Definitely. Well, we wish you the best of luck for the rest of the season, Marco. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, my teammates and the team principal, that they are great. They are the best. I'm so happy with them.
Excellent. Thanks for having a chat with us, Marco, and we'll see you back hopefully later in the year.
Sure. Thanks to you guys.
That was Marco Pereira. They're part of the race-winning GTD team there. World Austin Racing team, of course, partnered up with Andres Quintana. Owen, who would you like to check up?
So I would like to bring in Mr. Jordan Eriksson, part of the leading LMP2 team for Trading Paints Racing, Team Black at the end there. Jordan, fantastic final stint there from you, obviously. Not the greatest strategy in the end there for being P3 after the full course yellow, but then coming through to make some fantastic moves, it must be said, in the final sector to take P1 and storm away with the lead. How was the race from your perspective?
It was eventful on our end. I think getting the pole was great, and then during Selena's stint, we had a few mistakes that put us back, but that caution came out at a pretty good time for us to be able to capitalize and gain track position back, and then restarting third there, I knew I had a little bit of pace on the two guys in front. It was just going to be a matter of if I could make everything work quick. Yeah, it was a good result in the end. The pass around the outside there in the last sector was hairy a little bit. In retrospect, I probably should have waited a little bit longer to make that move, but everything worked out in the end, and the result was great.
Yeah, it was indeed a really, really great move to watch, especially from my perspective as well. But how was the traffic out there as well? Obviously, being the LMP2 at this track is surely going to be a bit more difficult to manage that traffic from LMVH and then trying to pass the GT3s as well. So how was your kind of mindset into managing the traffic here today?
Yeah, our just from the past couple races in VSCA, we've kind of learned that you just kind of got to take it as it comes. Don't force anything because that's how you get yourself in trouble. So even with the GTP cars coming through, when we're passing GT cars, it's a little scary at times. But for the most part, our philosophy around that is to just take our time and be methodical. And as long as you don't make mistakes through traffic, you're probably going to come out with a pretty good result. GT traffic at times can be difficult, but I think respect goes both ways, especially with multi-class racing. So
Yeah, indeed. I know what you mean for sure. And obviously the future rounds that are coming up, obviously this being round 5 out of 11. How are you feeling about the future rounds?
Well, next week or the next race would be the Watkins Glen 6-hour, which we had some pretty good pace there last season in the LMP2 car. I think there's a good possibility that we might be moving up classes to the GTP car, but we'll take that as it comes and figure out when that happens. But we're looking forward to the next endurance round and finishing out the season strong.
Awesome, man. Well, again, congratulations for today. And is there anyone you'd like to thank here on the broadcast?
Yeah, definitely like to thank Steve from Trading Paints. I'm sure everybody that is on iRacing knows and loves Trading Paints. Selena for being an awesome co-driver, and then everybody that was calling strategy and such on Discord. It was great. Thanks, guys. Also like to thank Virtual for sponsoring the race and getting on the broadcast with Apex, and you guys for broadcasting. You always do an excellent job. So thank you guys too.
I appreciate that, man. And again, congrats for the race today, and we hope to see some more successful races like this one from you guys.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Cheers. So that was Jordan Eriksson there in the winning LMP2 car for Trading Paints, racing black there. Sam, is there anyone that you'd like to bring in for a final chat as well?
Yes, I will drag up Jonathan Oshalim, who joins us now to have a talk with our LMDH race winner. Jonathan, congratulations out there on that race victory. It seemed after qualifying that it wasn't going to be easy for you guys, but you really did seem to have a pace advantage over the rest. It looked, dare I say, comfortable at times out there.
Yeah, on the restarts, that's when it got a little tight. But I think over the long run we had good pace, and Seamus was definitely very fast, and I was able to hang on there, just kind of protect it.
How was it in terms of the strategy out there? Like, were there any close calls, or was it fairly simple in terms of when the safety cars came out that it was simple to just pit when you did?
Yeah, I think the caution came out at just the right time to make it pretty simple. We were going to have to stop for extra fuel at the end originally, but because of when that came out, we kind of just pit and we could all make it to the end from there. So it was just a flat sprint to the end, basically.
And you guys are fairly new to the series, as far as I'm aware. I think this was only your third event. How are you finding apologies? How are you finding VSCA at the moment out on circuit? Like, is this similar to anything that you've done in the past?
Well, we've only run official events before, so it's nice just having like safety cars, to mix it up a little bit. So yeah, I've liked it so far. It's been good. There's good battles out there on track, and everyone's been nice so far. So it's been nice here.
Awesome. Well, it's really good to hear that. And well, next up we've got Watkins Glen 6 hours. What are your thoughts on that one? Have you done the official series for that event in the past?
Yeah. So we'll see. I'm sure my teammates are going to be fast. I need to get up to speed there. The bus stop area is always a little frightening in these cars, but no, it's going to be good fun. So I look forward to a 6-hour event.
Awesome. Well, we wish you the best of luck for that one, Jonathan. Who would you like to give a shout out to?
All my teammates, great job by Seamus today, but also Eric and Logan out there who've been on throughout the year. So I appreciate all of them, and yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having a chat with us, Jonathan, and best of luck that you can keep up this good run of form.
Thank you.
That was Jonathan Oshalim there, your race winner in the LMDH category for tonight, and Owen, he was in absolutely top form, as was his teammate, and well, it's surprising that that was their first round. I know that it's only their third race, and they have been building up to this, a fifth and a second in the past 2 rounds, but I think that could well be their first of many race victories.
Yeah, for sure. And again, obviously they say they do a bunch of officials as well, and I'm sure if they keep that momentum up in the officials, their iRacing is going to sky high past that 4K mark as well. So yeah, hopefully we can see more JR Motorsports of this in top form as well, and hopefully in Watkins we can see them strive to victory again, or maybe with the other teams making a bit of more pressure to JR Motorsports, because today was quite a comfortable victory for them. So yeah, I'm excited to see what the future holds for these guys.
For sure. And of course we've got several more rounds of this championship to go, 5 more rounds to the end of the season. I think we'll be broadcasting one of them as well later on in the season. I think we might still have time to maybe have a chat with 1 or 2 more drivers. Oh, and is there anyone in the waiting area who we haven't chatted to yet, who we want to have a quick interview with?
Yeah, so I see Thomas Fisher there as well. So Thomas Fisher for the CMS racing car as well, who actually ended up finishing P2, I believe, after some penalties there from Grizzly Motorsports car. So Thomas, congratulations on the P2. How was it out there for you guys today?
Sorry, we got P2?
Yeah, so I saw on the penalty sheets that Grizzly Motorsports in front actually had a 30-second post-race penalty in the end.
We knew it was coming. We didn't think it was going to be that quick.
Yeah, it was pretty much straight away.
Wow, yeah, no. I mean, we... Obviously, they had the start procedure infringement, and when they didn't get a penalty for that, we were a bit confused, so I'm guessing it's because of that. But, that sweetens up today a little bit.
Yeah, how was it out there for you guys today in terms of managing the traffic as well? Of course, this being such a high-speed track for these LMDH cars, managing the LMP2s and GT3s seemed a bit of a challenge out there for sometimes.
Yes. I don't think it's anything. I mean, it was certainly... I guess the most difficult part was because we're 3 different classes out there. It means that everybody's fighting for the same part of for the same bit of tarmac, and the GTDs were all right because there was just such a massive speed differential with them that we could get past them pretty much anywhere. The LMP2s though, they made our life hell. Because we were sort of joking about it that we think a lot of them felt a bit more entitled to the space than they should have been. They would weave in front of us quite a lot to stop us from going around them. So that was, I guess, it's not necessarily managing the cars more than managing the person who's in front of you. That was the biggest challenge today.
Yeah, for sure. And they seemed pretty hectic out there as well, with a bunch of people having loads of spins at turn 2 and turn 3, for example, and lots of instances here and there. So how was it trying to manage that compared to the traffic as well, with all these people going off left and right? Would you have like a spotter in there that would tell you what's happening around you?
Yes, I had my teammate Cameron Barker who was trying to keep an eye on it. But especially around here, even on the spotter cameras, you can't really see anything. So it's just you go around the corner and the smart ones will lift, the not so smart ones won't. And at that point, it's just an extra thing to manage. Like we saw it in the final corner on the last lap as I was trying to get past the Grizzly car. There was a huge crash, and at that point, it's just, you pick a line, you pray.
Yeah. Yeah, I can agree with that 100%. And yeah, out there today, obviously, there was the full course shells as well. So how was it managing that and implementing that into the strategy that you already had before coming into the race?
Well, we were trying something a bit different this race because we'd lost out a little bit on strategy over the last few races. And so we just said to ourselves, okay, we're just going to pit under all the full course yellows and we'll just deal with it from there. But the biggest issue is that when they put the tires on the car, the tires are hot and they cool down. You have to put them through a full reheat cycle, which just kills the lifespan of the tires. So I'm very thankful that the final run wasn't any longer than it was, because that would have been rough in the end. But yeah, it's just when a full course yellow comes out, you'll get a free pit stop. You see, basically the only guys who stay out are the ones who need to get a lap back.
Yeah, indeed. And again, congratulations today on the P2 at the end with the post-race penalty for Grizzly Motorsports in front as well. So congratulations and all the best for the future rounds.
Thank you. Bye.
So that was Thomas Fisher there for the CMS Racing MDH as well. And Sam, if you have someone else that you'd like to bring in as well to have a quick chat with of their race as well.
Yes, we've already had a chat with these guys a little bit earlier on in the event, but the Screeching Moose Motorsports guys join us now. And, well, congratulations, guys, to get P3 was a fantastic effort out there this or this afternoon or even this morning, I think, for where you guys are based. Taylor, first up for yourself. I mean, the strategy call that's pitting on pitting under the safety car. How did that play out in the end, and did that second caution help or hinder you guys?
Yeah, we originally had a plan. We knew we were having problems with tire drag throughout the stint, so we decided to pit early and put Anthony in and get him to run that stint out. We were hoping to get in. We got very lucky with that second safety car. Because it gave us the wiggle room to be able to push the car to its limit at the end. If we didn't get that safety car, we definitely were going to be nursing those tires to the end.
Yeah, it really did seem to be a stretch. I mean, is that something that was just about the circuit, or was that maybe something to do with your setup, which was taking the life out of the tires?
This circuit, with it being clockwise, is very rough on the left front tire, and we knew over some testing over the last week or two that it was just going to eat up that tire. So we planned around it to pit and get the most out of the tire instead of trying to nurse them. And obviously, hoping on some safety cars worked out.
Absolutely. And Lucas, I mean, how was it in the car for your stints as well? Like, it seemed pretty stressful having all those cars, scatter everywhere around you. And when you're in a GTD like you were, it seemed like you guys were a bit helpless and at the whim of what the prototypes were doing.
I'll be completely honest. This was the work of Taylor and Anthony. I was behind with the rest of the guys on the team, just working the strategy, looking over stuff, and seeing this entire thing unfold. And I'm genuinely proud of this team on how they managed to deal with all the chaos and the traffic. Yeah, there were some calls that we saw where we're basically kissing doors with the other prototypes or with the other GTs. But entirely, it was all the magic of these guys, Taylor, Anthony, McKenna Dean, David Dean, and just everybody on the team doing their work and managing to go through all that traffic and putting all their magic in.
Yeah, it was really impressive. But yeah, the way that they were able to make the most of that. And of course, I mean, you had a good view of what was going on in that final half an hour or so after the second caution. I mean, what was it like for you guys in terms of your positioning through that? Because there seemed to be so many incidents around you. Like, initially we saw like the top 5, even top 10 GTs. It looked like it was going to come down to the wire, and then there seemed to be a lot of incidents. How did that affect you guys?
Honestly, we just focused forward, deal with the wreck, and move forward. Don't sit back and think about it. Just do what you can do to mitigate the damage done by incidents. Biggest one was keeping the mindset and not getting flustered.
Absolutely, yeah, it seemed to work really well for you guys. And then, of course, we had that incident at the final corner as well. When did you realise that third and fourth had collided the way that they had?
On exit. As I came out the exit, I just kind of saw a car come flying through my rearview mirror. Up to that point, I didn't expect that at all. It's a little bit of surprise, and I am sorry for the guys that were in third in the Porsche or fourth in the Porsche. They definitely deserve that. They definitely deserve that position.
Yeah, it was absolutely went down to the wire between those teams. Well, congratulations, guys. It was a really good and hard-earned result for you all. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I'd love to shout out our partners with the Operation Motorsports Foundation, as well as Apex V2R. they've done a lot of support for our team, and we just like to show some support to themselves as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having a chat with us, and particularly that mid-race chat as well. It was really good to have some insight into what was going on for you guys. And yeah, we wish you the best of luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
So that was Lucas Santos and Taylor Parsons managing to finish in 3rd place for Screeching Moose Motorsports. And I think they had one of the most entertaining races out there, because they just seem to be up and down the order constantly. You know, a strong start, and then they seem to fall back a bit with that different strategy. It didn't look like it was working their way, but in the end, a 3rd place was a really strong final 20 minutes, man.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely demonstrates that they have the pace, and you know they had that constant pace to keep pushing forward. It's just they had setbacks from either instances, as you said, or mistakes or strategy. Well, whatever it was, they kept setting them back. They kept pushing them forward with their own kind of pace and momentum. And yeah, it was really great to see them push forward, and hopefully they can do this thing without them kind of incidents in the next few rounds.
Well, big thanks, of course, once again to Virtual for helping us out on this broadcast, for making this broadcast possible, and making the whole championship possible as well. And of course, once again, if you want to try out their beginner driver education course, which has been created to cover all driving aspects, including traffic rules, regulations, traffic signs, and defensive driving techniques as well, do certainly check out their website. If you just search in Google VR7UAL.ca, then you'll go to their website. That's virtual.ca, and you can see the services that they provide for that, along, of course, with their simulator hire as well. If you're based in Eastern Ontario, that is a very good place for you to go to. If you want to get a motion rig, that's absolutely the way to go. And then also do check out their leagues as well in the MX5 and GT3 machinery, and that is on Thursday evenings. So do check out Virtual Esports .gg in order to get details on that. But that pretty much wraps us up then for tonight. Of course, there's several more rounds of this championship remaining for the drivers. We will hopefully broadcast at least one of them towards the end of the season. But it's been an absolute pleasure on Apex Racing TV to bring you this round of the VSCA Sports Car Championship. And hopefully you have all enjoyed it as well. But for now, from myself, Sam Fitzpatrick, from Owen Carroll, and from Samuli Kumo, we will say goodbye, and we'll see you back in the future on Apex Racing TV. See you then.